Okay, here's the deal, everyone. I'm about to tell you the story of my life, that basically ruined at this point, actually. My fiancée Summer and I had planned to get married this weekend. We were so in love, and our lives seemed perfect, and we wanted our marriage to be perfect. We were on the edge for months trying to plan, perfect everything, making sure nothing is out of place, but then I found out something that turned my life upside down. And not for the better. But before I tell you all about the betrayal I had to suffer, let me take you back to the time our love story started. You guys deserve a cute little background check to understand why I'm so infuriated right now. Summer and I were like two peas in a pod. We had the same interests, same dreams, morals, values, and everything else as well. It was like we were meant for each other, and so we decided to seal the deal and get engaged. Fight us just like the rock-solid foundation that we were based on. I mean, it was everything that our relationship was relying on. We both valued honesty, and we wanted each other to be loyal and quite frank. There was never a reason for me to doubt Summer's faithfulness. I was always so proud of the fact that we had so much trust for each other, and I would always tell my friends and family about it as well, because I felt like it was something that I had the right to boast about. But what I stumbled upon, I don't think I have the right anymore, because the trust, the loyalty, everything that we had going on just shattered like it was made of glass. Anyways, even with all the trust that we had going on, there was always this one thing in a relationship that made me super uncomfortable. It was my fiancée Summer's relationship with her best friend Aaron. They'd been best friends since they were like 5 or so I understand why they're so close, and they are very, very close as they were, but I feel like once you get engaged or married to someone, there's a certain boundary that needs to be followed regarding your best friends that's of different genders. I understand that they shared a lot of memories together and that their connection was purely for the tonic. But my being uncomfortable was always treated as if it was me being insecure about the relationship. This wasn't even the case because I was very secure in our relationship. At first, I tried to be cool about it, and I pretended like it was not bothering me as much because I did not want people to see me as a guy who can't handle a few guys friends around. So I just wanted to trust Summer and share a respect for her friendship. However, as a relationship group, but nagging feelings inside of me that, makes you feel like you want to throw up every time, it just would not go away, no matter how hard I tried. Even though it made me uncomfortable, and I tried to ignore it, there were moments when I simply could not. So I tried to talk to somebody about it. I wanted to be upfront and honest about how I felt because I feel like she deserves to know where I was coming from and what I was dealing with, right? But for some reason, she would always brush me off and tell me that what I was feeling was not really that true either, because I was simply overreacting. She told me that they were really close friends, and she told me that I had nothing to worry about because she never saw him in that way and that Aaron was like a brother to her. But I just never felt like she was being honest about it. Or maybe that's just what I think now that I know the entire truth. But at the time, I decided to try to let it go because I felt like she would not lie to me about something else. Who says this? Especially considering she now knew how I felt about the entire thing as well. So we carried on with our lives. We had a pretty solid relationship, so I didn't want anything to ruin that because she genuinely brought so much happiness to my life. She made me feel like I could just be happy, Life just wasn't about living, it's about being happy as well. I didn't know that before she came into my life, but she reminded me about that, and I didn't want to let that go because of a stupid guy that I could not handle my fiancé being friends with. Honestly, people often found us, or, would not find us, but our friends and stuff looked up to us to provide them with like advice and stuff for having a seemingly perfect relationship. Everyone was also curious about our secrets, because we had just a sort of relationship that people looked up to, and that people felt like, This was a perfect amount of love and appreciation that one should have for the other. We shared stories of our adventures together, and we told everybody how instead of just focusing on our own wins and success, we would celebrate each other's wins as well, and how we would provide unwavering support with each other in tough times. However, that was soon about to go down the drain. Actually, it did go down the drain. That's why I'm writing this post in the first place. I think the reason is it was easy for both of us to get caught up in this mess because deep down, we weren't the perfect couple that everyone thought we were. We had a lot of cracks in our relationship, and I was always insecure about her relationship with Aaron, and we'd always fight about that. And that would lead us to get frustrated and get mad at each other for the stupidest stuff ever. That was something that our friends did not know. We were happy about it. No one had to know the cracks running in our relationship. Anyways, what our friends also did not know was that we were about to go through the toughest battle life could ever throw our way. And at this point, I'm not sure we're going to come out of it as the same perfect couple everybody saw us once to be. It happened around 2 days before my wedding. Summer was at her bachelorette party, and even though it's usually girls only, she invited Aaron. Like, dude, why is there a guy present there at your bachelorette party? Especially one that's caused so many fights in our relationship. To be fair, though, she told me I could invite any close girlfriends of mine if I wanted, but I just didn't have any that were this close. There were only one who I would be close with, and her name was Lillian, and she was my first ever friend. But then she started liking me during high school, and things just got really awkward between us. So now we're on a need-to-talk basis. Although, Summer did get introduced to her once, and they hit it off really well, so sometimes I see Lillian over at my house when I come from work, but I don't really mind that much. So, even though I could invite anyone I wanted, I was still pretty mad about Aaron being at my soon-to-be wife's bachelorette, but I didn't say anything because I didn't want to have another fight just days before our magical day. I was so bent on making the entire week perfect, and I was ready to put my discomfort at the back of my mind just so we could have a peaceful week, but clearly, Summer did not think the way I did because she made no efforts to keep the peace going. Do you guys want to know what I found out? She cheated on me with Aaron, and that too at her bachelorette party, the one she clearly told me not to worry about because she was, quote, just going to have fun and be safe. But obviously that was too much to ask for from her. Midway through her party, I received a text from somebody anonymous. The person was there at Summer's bachelorette party, and they sent me this picture of Summer in a bikini, being embraced by Aaron, who was shirtless. They were both by the pool, and the hug looked so intense, even I thought they were dating for a millisecond, until I remembered that this was my fiancé we're here talking about. Bro, I started fuming as soon as I saw the picture. Imagine seeing your fiancé hug her guy best friend while they're both half naked. 2 days before your wedding, to add. And the cherry on top was that it was like 12 in the ducking morning. It could not be any more obvious than it was. It was undeniable evidence of the betrayal that Summer threw my way. I was confused. I was angry. I was heartbroken, so basically, I was overwhelmed in every sense of the word. All these questions going on in my mind, like how could someone do this? How long has this been going on? Did she even love me? All these questions are making me really, really confused, and I could not think straight at that point, and I tried really hard to do, breathing exercise, and desperately wanted to know answers, but I didn't even know who sent the text. If I could just figure out who sent me that picture, I could easily understand and answer all the questions, but I didn't know who sent it. It was an anonymous number, and I've never seen that number in my entire life. I tried asking who it was because maybe they would tell me like it was someone I knew who changed their number but forgot to tell me. Stuff like that happens. Well, it happens all the time. so I thought it was something like that, but when I asked the person who they were, they told me not to worry about that information and that I should just focus on the betrayal in my hands of my fiancé. Oh my God, did I focus? I focused all right. I focused so well, I spent the entire night planning how to take revenge on Summer. Now, I know what you all might be thinking, because it's not really natural to immediately start thinking about taking revenge on your fiancé when you catch them cheating. But for me, what she did was way more than that. She betrayed my trust, and there's no way I could forgive her. I also did it because I understood that engaging in a confrontation would probably lead to us to start fighting, and she would give me these explanations that I knew would be fake and false, because there's no way that someone just hugs a best friend like that. But obviously Summer would not think the same, and she would tell me that I'm simply overreacting, based on a video like a 2-second little clip. Knowing her, she'd probably tell me to think rationally instead of my emotions, which is kind of crappy if you ask me, because when I catch her cheating, I want to act on my emotions just as much as I want to act rationally. So, instead, I made this entire plan that would allow me to get like a sense of control over the situation and just let everyone know that I am not someone who could be walked over. I would not let myself be a victim of something as disrespectful as this. In my head, I was already seeking closure and a way to get my self-respect back. Initially, I was going to make my plan really simple, and just to let everyone know that she was between me and leak the pictures and stuff like that, but then I realized that it probably would not be enough for me to be satisfied. I wanted her to experience the same amount of betrayal and anguish that I felt, and if I had to do it through means that is probably a bit too excessive, I'm ready to do it. Anyways, I knew I could not plan this out alone, especially because the plan that I had in mind involved somebody else. I knew just a person who could help me, so the next morning I called Lillian, even though we haven't talked for a while, and I told her the entire thing that happened. She was honestly shocked as well, because no one expected Summer to do something like this. Lillian told me how she was shocked to find such a perfect couple going through something like this, but because she was such a good friend, she decided it was only natural for her to help me make Summer feel the same way she made me feel. My plan was simple. That day of the morning, when I'll be walking down the aisle instead of going over to stand at the altar to wait for Summer to arrive, I'm going to walk hand in hand with Lillian, right beside me. When I told Lillian the plan, it felt so great because it felt like she was a secret weapon that I had on my hand ready to go. Now, Lillian isn't one to shy away from giving her 2 cents, so she did raise a bit of concerns about the potential plan and how it could go wrong. But she also understood the need for closure that I needed, so we got to action. The next morning was spent brainstorming and strategizing to make sure that it would not go wrong because, at the end of the day, I'm also paying for the stuff there and I don't want it to mess up too bad. I just want people to know what Summer did. And I just want everyone to realize that I'm not the bad guy. Anyways, moving on to the day of the wedding, it was absolute chaos. Okay, picture this. It's the big day, it's supposed to be about love, it's supposed to be about commitment. Everyone's super excited. Everyone's eagerly waiting for my entrance, but then I entered the room with another woman by my hand. Lillian, just to be specific. Now, that's what you call a cliffhanger. The music stopped playing in the room, it went silent. Silent, everyone's eyes on me. And I just felt everyone thinking, what the heck is going on? I saw Summer running out to the aisle with her dress flailing behind her like a dramatic movie scene, and her face going from confusion to utter disbelief. Honestly, well, looking at her face and watching her heart basically break into pieces was way harder than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be relieving, but it actually was not as easy. Part of me felt bad for the hurt she was obviously feeling. I mean, I could not deny that our actions had rocked her world, but at the same time, it was hard not to feel a sense of validation for the emotions I've been wrestling with myself. But hey, let's face it. Summer's actions hurt me, and sometimes it's hard to keep a cool head when you feel so betrayed. I guess it's all part of the messy, complicated nature of relationships. What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. Oh boy, today's story is wild. A lot of people are saying in the original comments that OP went too far and simply embarrassed her with not even enough evidence from that video. Well, it's not over yet. We're going to jump into the first update, but if you guys are not subscribed to the channel, you're gonna want to click that subscribe button for daily videos. So, let's jump into update number 1. Hey guys. So, the last time I posted here, I kinda left all of you in like a cliffhanger, and I thought it's time for an update, so I'm back. First of all, let's talk about the aftermath of my plan. And someone's reaction, even though I said it was like a movie scene, the family's and friends' reactions were way worse. When she was standing there in the middle of the aisle, I could practically see the shockwave going from person to the other. I could hear the gasping, the whispers, everything. All of them were so shocked at what happened, and one person even told me that I've lost it, and that I should be admitted to a mental hospital. I didn't really take that person's word to heart, because she's super close to Summer, so I understood where she was coming from. Fast forward to the fight and the confrontation between Summer and I. It did feel like I was kind of a powder keg that was waiting to explode. Well, if you guys know what I mean. She stormed into my apartment and her eyes were blood red. It was very clear that she's been crying, and although I felt very guilty for making her cry, because I still love her, I could not just sit there and let her walk all over me, right? Summer started calling me a heartless monster, and she kept telling me that something was wrong with me and that I should have talked to her about something if something is bothering, but that's the thing. I've tried to talk to her so many times and talk to her about it, and every single time she's disregarded my concern. This is what she gets for not listening to me when I try to tell her that something's bothering me, and when I tried to fix the relationship so hard, she was out there partying and getting all touchy-touchy with her guy best friend, Aaron, while they were practically naked. So, no, I don't feel that bad anymore because yeah, she deserved it. At one point, the entire confrontation and the entire argument got so heated that she threw a lamp at my head. I mean, who does that? I could not believe my eyes. Because I never thought, well, she was the type of person to get violent, but she basically tried to tell me that point anyways, and it's gotten really heated. So I've told her she could either stop being a baby about it and we could sleep in different rooms, or she could leave. This woman scoffed in my face and slammed the door shut when she was leaving, no doubt going back to that stinky guy, Aaron, I suppose. I didn't hear from her all night, and deep down, I could not help but wonder if Summer truly believed her in denial. Okay, I get it. Maybe Summer did not feel that way about him, but it was very clear that Aaron had liked her from the get-go. Especially from the way that he was so touchy-touchy around her all the time. So how could she deny everything in a matter of seconds? Like, I even have evidence of them in a very passionate embrace that's caught on camera and sent by a stranger, and she still would not agree to the fact that she cheated on me. As if I was clinging to crumbs at this point, because there's no way we could go back to how we were. I realized how our entire relationship has now transformed into this hole of insecurity and anger and hurt and mistrust and And I really needed to face that harsh reality that maybe she just was not meant to be mine. That doesn't mean I don't get to make her feel like crap though, because she broke me apart completely. I spent that night drinking my heart out, ignoring calls from everyone, and I basically vanished from the face of the earth, and just for the moment, I was happy. It felt like there was nothing that could harm me anymore, and I was in this safety bubble that would just never Pop? I don't know what I'm going to do now because Summer still has not come back home, even though it's been like 2 days now. She didn't even come to get her stuff if she was living somewhere else. For now, I'm just ignoring everybody and pretending like I don't exist, because I don't have that mental energy to deal with people right now. Update number 2. So, I'm back with another update because things never go right in my life, do they? So after the entire fight that I've had with Summer, she did not come and see me at my house or in the house that we shared together for almost a week. I'm not really sure the exact time, but it's like 5 or 6 days. Instead of her, though, the main villain of the story, Aaron, decides to pay me a visit. Honestly, when I opened up that door for him, I expected our conversation to be loud and violent, so I invited them inside because I didn't want to disturb my neighbors. Our conversation started out pretty easy and civil. He tried explaining Summer's side of the story and told me how I was misunderstanding the entire situation, but I just felt like he was downplaying my feelings because he was refusing to acknowledge that I'd seen the video, and it felt like it was more than just a simple hug. Although, I should kind of get grateful for him, because when I told him about the video, he did not instantly get mad at me. But he did try and tell me that it seemed like a much bigger thing than it actually was, and that I was just looking at the surface of it, and that there was nothing happening there, and they're just two friends who were hugging because one of them's getting married. And, well, Aaron was happy for her. When he starts defending Summer, that's when things took a turn for the worse. Well, I guess you could say my emotions that were going through were inexplainable. Because at one point I was trying to understand their point of view and where both of them were coming from. But then again, why was he coming to her defense so hard? Just seeing his face angered me, and it brought up all the feelings of anger and hurt right there to the surface, to the point where I felt like I was standing on a volcano that was ready to erupt. In his eyes, I've taken things too far, but in my eyes, I've done exactly what needed to be done. I was not going back down to my initial plan. I was not going to apologize for something that I did because I was forced into that situation. When I told him all this, the exchange escalated into a full-blown argument. We started throwing taunts at each other. There was a lot of frustration in the room, and accusations were basically flying back and forth at the point as well, and it was very clear that neither of us was going to back down. It took a punch to my face and a punch to his face for us to finally realize that this was going far beyond what we planned when we decided to have a civil conversation with each other. And so we decided to let it be, and I told him that he needs to leave. As if that wasn't enough, Jack, my best friend who had been with me through the thick of it, left me a message that questioned my actions. His text was filled with disappointment, and I could not believe that he could not understand why I've taken things to this point. Even though I had let him very lengthy text messages that explained the entire situation, up to how I felt about it. It hurt that he could not understand why I've crossed these lines, but the fact that he was no longer willing to support me just made me really frustrated, because he was the one person that I expected would understand me. So, that was really tough on me, and now I'm not sure where I'm going to go ahead from this, because my life feels like it's crashing down, but it was supposed to be the other way around. So, either I can get my life back on track, or I can try and ruin Summer's life even more. Update number 3. So, I'm back with another update relating to my wedding day drama, because for some reason it just keeps on taking unexpected turns left and right. One thing that really stuck with me when I talked to Aaron last time was when he asked if I even knew the person who sent the video. Well, because of him, he said that sounds like a really important detail and that I should not just do something this big based on a video sent by someone, well, I don't even know. That made sense, honestly. Like, yeah, I get his point, and I also start to feel really guilty for the chaos I've caused, so equipped with determination and a bag of Cheetos, I decided that I was going on a digital mission to uncover who was the one who sent me that text. So, I channeled my inner Sherlock Holmes and decided that the best way to do this would be to track the IP address of the sender and track their information from it. I'm really good at tracking IP information because I worked as an IT guy for a really long time, and this is just something that I've learned on the side for a couple years as well, so it wasn't that hard. When I was doing it, however, my heart was pounding like a jackhammer. My eyes were glued to the screen because I just needed to know who the person was, and I was so nervous. I felt like I was about to scream whenever the loading bar came up, and oh my god! You guys don't understand the amount of shock that I went into when I found out who that anonymous sender was. The digital team led me to ride out the virtual doorstep. It was Lillian. Yeah. The same Lillian who walked down the aisle with me. The same Lillian who comforted me through the times and told me I was doing the right thing. When I found out, I could not understand why she has done this, what she did to me, but then again, I was like, okay, you know what? Maybe she was trying to look out for me and let me know what was happening back there, which I should be grateful for, right? But then, why was the message anonymous if she was helping? I wanted answers, so I decided to confront her, and you know what I found? She made it look way bigger than it actually was, just because she likes me and thinks Summer does not deserve to have a man like me. So, this was her plan to get us to break up. I'm heartbroken finding this news out. I can't believe I fell for this trap and ruined the best thing about my life because of someone like Lillian. I'm going to talk to Summer again, try to see if she can understand my point of view, but I know I broke her. I've broken her poor little heart really badly. Update number 4. So, I'm back with another update, and this is probably going to be my final one. After this, I don't think there's anything that we even need to talk about. I found out about the picture and everything, and I felt so guilty. Because I basically ruined my entire life based on the picture, and not just that, I ruined Summer's life as well. As soon as I got to know what Lillian did, I called Summer and explained the entire situation to her. She lashed out at me, though I understand that because what I did to her was very extreme, and I don't expect her to forgive me so quickly. But I tried my best to let her know how I was feeling, so she'd know I was very genuine in the apology. But Summer, understandably hurt and betrayed, needed time to process it all. She told me that what I did was not easy to forgive, because it had shattered her self-respect and trust in me, and that was something you can't easily fix. I was ready to do whatever it took, though. Aaron and Jake also talked to me about it, although the conversation with Jake was much more calm, and even though he told me off for being so stupid, it never went as far as it did with Aaron. Aaron? Well, he was outraged. He barged into my house and started screaming at me, calling me all sorts of names, and even landed a punch on my face. I took it all with no complaints because I knew I deserved it. I asked him to help me out and gain Summer's trust again. I begged him. But he just scoffed in my face and told me I've messed up way too far for him to help me now. While waiting for Summer's decision after the phone call I had with her, I knew I needed to confront this Lillian. Wow. I let her off way too easily, and I cannot let her manipulative actions go unaddressed. I tracked her down like a bloodhound and confronted her, unleashing all the anger and disappointment that I felt. I let her know that her selfish actions have caused immense pain and turmoil in my life and jeopardized the happiness I'd found with Summer. However, it seemed like she didn't care, because she was still trying to convince me that I should just date her instead because she, quote, makes me happier than Summer ever did. I got so mad when I heard that. I didn't even trust myself to not hurt her. So I left. Now, I can only hope that Summer finds it in her heart to forgive me for my impulsive actions. Well, that's all, folks. I, 27 female, have been with my husband Roddy for 5 years, and we've been married for 3 years. We have a happy marriage, but recently things have been strained, and I'm not sure what's happening. We've always been best friends as well as being a married couple, but over the last few months, I definitely feel that Roddy is talking to me less, just about things, and seems to speak to more of his friends, including my younger brother, Seb. Roddy has always been really good with Seb, as he doesn't have many friends, and when we got together, Roddy took him under his wing and introduced him to his buddies, which really helped out Seb build his confidence. It was Roddy who suggested that Seb shortened his name from Sebastian to Seb, as it seemed less formal and not so old-fashioned. Roddy did the same thing with his name, as his parents called him Rodney, and he says that it's an old man's name. I've never called him anything other than Roddy or the affectionate pet names that we have for each other. All through our relationship, Roddy and I have always valued having our own friends and our own interest, because we both believe that if you spend all your time with your partner, then you have nothing to talk about when you're together, as you've spent your waking hours together. We both work for my parents' construction company, as does Seb and my best friend Sophie. Well, my dad's company is huge, and so we work in different departments but often meet for lunch if we're able to get away at the same time. Sophie and I work in accounts department, which is how we became such close friends, and she's really more of a sister to me than a friend, and my parents treat her as such. Seb is training in management with father, and Roddy works in construction, which gives him a really good body. Sometimes, working all together causes problems, but as we don't really see each other at work, apart from the occasional lunch, we have time to be ourselves and not be distracted at work. I do occasionally walk past the area where the supplies are, if I know Roddy is in the yard and not away at a job site, so I can get a cheeky peek at my husband. Sometimes I don't even let him know that I'm there. I guess you could say it's like my dirty little secret. Well, I first noticed that Roddy seemed distracted when he would come home from work, have a shower, and say that he was going out with the boys, usually to have a beer and play some pool. As it began to happen more and more, I asked if I could come at times, as I missed him in the evenings. Well, he actually got a little annoyed about that and said that we had agreed that we could not encroach on each other's relaxation time. I know that we agreed to that, but I never thought it would end up being nearly every evening. Some nights I'm home alone, just until midnight when he comes strolling in, stinking of beer, and falls asleep into the bed. He's not touched me intimately for months, which is hurting me as I don't know why he's not wanting to be with me. I've tried to talk to him about it, but he looks at me like I've lost my mind and says that I'm making something out of nothing. He told me that he's tired and the projects that they're working on at the moment is really difficult and exhausting. Well, I know it is because I looked it up, and so he's just felt he needed a little more time and moments to unwind with his friends, and he was sorry if I felt neglected. Well, after I brought it up, things did improve slightly, and we went on some dates and spent more time with just the two of us. That was nice, but it slowly slipped back to how it was before I complained. I decided that I needed to do something, and as I had not told anyone about the issues we were having, I asked Sophie to come around for a girls' night when Roddy was on yet another of his nights out, and over a couple of glasses of wine, I told her what's going on. Sophie listened to me and did not interrupt, and I'm so grateful that she's such a good friend. She took a sip of her wine and said, "Have you ever thought that maybe another woman is in the picture, and that's why he's pulling away from you?" I wish I could say that it not crossed my mind that he might be seeing another woman, and that's why I was not allowed to go with him when they were out on their nights out. I was so conflicted and torn. I did not want to believe the man I loved could be seeing another woman. The worst part would be that if he was meeting her when he went out with his boys' nights out, he was also with his friends and Seb, so they would have to be covering for him, and that hurt even more thinking that it was only Roddy who was lying to me, Well, I got really upset at this point, and Sophie had to console me for ages. She said I did not want to be upset when Roddy got home, as we could go wrong if I accused him of cheating on me. It would make things way worse if I was wrong. Even as upset as I was, I realized she was taking sense, and I asked her what I could do. Sophie asked me if I was 100% sure that I wanted to know what was going on, and if I was, she would help me get to the bottom of it one way or the other. I had to think about it for a while, but I decided that I had to find out, as I could not live how we were living any longer, and I wanted my marriage to go back to how it was. So, we decided that we would tell Roddy that as Sophie and I both had vacation time, we were owing, it would like go to a girl's weekend somewhere to chill and have a pamper. He might wonder why I wanted to go somewhere without him, but if he was having an affair, then he would definitely not mind me going. Of course. Well, he may also be okay with it just because he was a good husband. The plan was that we would not actually go anywhere, but book a local hotel, a nice one, and then we would spy on Roddy. I know. Did not make a great wife, But as I was upset and stressed about how things were, I needed to know. Roddy agreed and sounded pleased that I would be taking time out with my friend to have some fun and relax. And I tried not to worry that he was too keen for me to go. I needed to tell myself that nothing was certain, and I would give Roddy the benefit of the doubt until I knew one way or the other. Sophie and I checked into the hotel, and I texted Roddy to let him know we were settled in. He thought we were in the city hours away from home, so he would feel safe to do as he pleased. Now, all we had to do was be careful not to get caught watching him. If he was innocent and we were spying on him, then my marriage would be over, and it would be my fault for not trusting him. The first day we drove past his regular spots in a hired car, but didn't see anything. The second day, I sent a text saying that things were fine with us and I hoped he was okay. He replied that he's been at work, and tonight he was going out with the boys for a few drinks, and so I knew that if we were going to catch him doing anything he should not be doing, tonight is going to be the night. We waited until we knew that they would be out, and we headed out too. We decided that if we saw anything, we would go in and say we had come back early as Sophie was feeling ill. Well, we found something, but not what I could have ever expected. We got to the bar and his friends were all there, but there's no sign of Roddy. Sophie told me now to do it, but I went in and asked where Roddy was, using the excuse that we agreed upon. They looked surprised and said Roddy was not there, and they had not seen him for weeks. He was always out with Seb, somewhere or the other. His friend suggested that we even tried a different bar as he'd heard that they've been going there. There was something on his friend's face that made me think he knew something, but we left and headed to the bar. I didn't even need to go in as Roddy and Seb were sitting in the beer garden in the sun, holding hands. As I watched Roddy lean over and kiss my brother on the lips. Not a kiss you give to a friend, a kiss of a lover. I could not help myself. I let out a cry and they both turned and saw me. I was in panic mode, and all I could say to Sophie was, "Get me out of here." And without talking to either Roddy or Seb, we jumped in the car and left. We still had 2 days at the hotel, so we went there and I threw myself onto the bed and I sobbed. This all happened 2 days ago. I've been ignoring phone calls from Roddy and Seb ever since. We have to leave the hotel today, so I need to make a decision on what to do. Sophie said a lot of people asked online for advice, as it can be a way to get opinions of people looking from the outside. So, here I am, sharing my story with you. What would you do if you found your brother kissing your husband? What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. I hope everyone's having a fantastic day. So today's story is about to get real. If you don't think it's real already, just wait till you see update number 1. It's going to blow your socks off. If you're not subscribed to the channel, go ahead and take a second, smash that subscribe button. It really helps support me. And if you're subscribed to the channel, you'll never miss an upcoming video. Here we go. Update number 1. I am so stunned at all the replies to my post. At the start, I tried to reply, but it got to be too much. And the number of negative messages made me feel so bad that I just couldn't read anymore. To everyone who offered helpful advice, thank you. To those who suggested that it was probably my fault and that I obviously failed as a wife, well, you know what? Thank you for pointing out what I was already feeling. 2 days after we came across my husband and my brother in a, let's say, compromising situation, I had to bite the bullet and speak to Roddy. I could not just sit here hiding in a hotel room forever, and we need to check out anyways. Whilst we were there, Sophie talked to me and tried to reassure me, but I was inconsolable. It was as though I could have dealt with Roddy cheating with a woman so much easier than with my brother. I don't even think it was become obviously my brother is a man. It was more that it was a member of my family, and if it had been my sister, which, by the way, I don't have a sister, I would have been just as devastated. It seems like the ultimate betrayal. I don't care if it's a boy or a girl. The morning after it happened, I phoned my parents and tried to explain what happened. I could not get through the explanation and Sophie had to take over. My parents could not believe it. I thought they could not believe that Roddy and Seb had gone and betrayed me like this. But in the first conversation, it was that they could not believe that my brother was gay. I didn't know he was either, but looking back, he never showed any interest in dating and girls or anyone really. I would never in my wildest imagination have ever thought that Seb was hanging around with Roddy so much because he liked him. More than a brother-in-law. I began to blame Seb more than Roddy, as in my mind it was obvious that my brother had tricked Roddy into a relationship. It made sense that way as Roddy was married to me, so obviously he wasn't gay. It must be just a phase. Or maybe he had been vulnerable and Seb had taken advantage of him. After we checked out, Sophie drove me home and I had to face my husband. The main thing I was grateful for was that Seb was not there. My parents still did not believe me, and in their minds I had mistaken the whole thing and was causing trouble where they should not be any. I did ask them if they had talked to my brother, but they were very vague about that. When I got home, Sophie asked if I wanted her to come in, but I thought that this was something that I needed to deal with myself. I promised that I would call her later. She told me that if things get really awful, I could come and stay with her. I was so grateful to have a friend like her. Roddy was home when I arrived, and he looked up when I walked in but did not say a word. He was waiting for me to say the first word. I told him that we needed to talk, and he needed to tell me the truth about everything. No more lies. I was still convinced that he would tell me that it was all a mistake and Seb had tricked him into the whole thing. I guess I'm not as naive as I sound, but I can't believe that Roddy did this without tempting Seb. Roddy looked so beaten down by everything, but he began to talk, and I wish it made things easier for me, but it did not. Roddy said that when he was younger, he had often looked at boys around him and thought that they were cute, but he just assumed that everyone felt this way. They really believed it was a normal part of growing up, and so he ignored the feelings that he had for his male friends and dated only women as was expected of him. But his friends and parents, well, when he met me, he thought that he got it all out of his system. Well, as we got on so well right from the get-go and we bonded really quickly. His parents liked me, and so he proposed to me even when he still found males attractive now and again. The main problem was that he found my brother attractive. Roddy said that in his brain he could tell himself that he only thought of Seb as attractive as we look very similar. There's a strong family genetics, and so because he was marrying me and loved me, it was just normal that he would think that my brother, who looks so much like me, is a good-looking guy as well. I should say now that I never had any idea that my husband had this complex feeling, and I certainly did not know that my brother was gay. Seb had never said anything about it, and I thought we were close siblings. It hurt that he did not trust me enough to tell me. I mean, not as much as it hurt that he kissed my husband. I asked Roddy how far the fling had gone, and Roddy admitted that he had a physical relationship with Seb on numerous occasions over the years that we were married. I'm so shocked that no one ever knew. I mean, I lived with this man, and I had no idea he was cheating on me with my own brother. I did not know what to say, and I got upset and told him how hurt I was that I never wanted to find out this way. Roddy pointed out I was spying on him, or I would not have found out as I did, but that's hardly the point, is it? I asked him if the fling with Seb was over and if we could go back to our lives. Now, this is where I need help. It's pretty obvious to me that things between Seb and Roddy was just an infatuation, and now that it's out in the open, all we had to do was work out what was wrong in our relationship and fix it. No matter what, I love him and wanted to make things better. Roddy looked at me as if I've lost my mind and asked if I've been listening to anything he's been saying. He said that it felt that I have not taken a word that's come out of his mouth seriously, and he was just hearing exactly what I wanted to hear. He told me that he had realized over the last 6 months or so that he had been living a life that was not true to who he was, and that he had married me because he thought it was the correct thing to do. But all the time that we've been together, it's been a living lie. He should have accepted that he liked men, that he was gay from the get-go when he was young, and then he would have been living a truthful life. He said that he was sorry that he had hurt me, but he knew now that he wanted to be with Seb, as that was where his heart really was. Well, he agreed that I was correct in assuming that at first it was just a fling, a way for him to experiment with his sexuality, but as time went on, he had fallen deeply in love with my brother and wanted to be with him. I was stunned and could not believe what I was hearing. I told him that I was not going to accept that, and he was not leaving me for my brother. I would not allow it. He got angry and said that there's nothing I could do about it, and I had to accept that our marriage was over. He said he never wanted to hurt me, but staying with me when he was in love with someone else was not going to be good for anyone. So, I told him that he was obviously confused and needed to think about things and maybe talk to someone or have therapy, just to make himself see that he was throwing everything away for a silly infatuation with Seb. Roddy stood to his feet and said he was going to pack his bag and move out so I could work through things in my head and accept that we need to call time in our marriage. I followed him around the house asking him where he was going. This was his home. But he would not talk to me anymore and got into his car and left. As he drove away, I stood in the driveway screaming, "You're not gay!" Right after him as he drove away, and I don't know, I must have been having a panic attack or something because the next thing I remember clearly was being in the hospital because I've been found collapsed outside the house by a neighbor, sobbing and yelling. I did not let the doctors call anyone for me. I was fed up with everything. Please, someone tell me that this is a bad dream and that I'm right. If he married me, he can't be gay. Can I refuse to let him divorce me or press charges against my brother for being emotionally abusive to me? I need advice. Update number 2. I realized that I may have sounded like I was in my right mind in the last post, especially towards the end, but have you understand, I was in a really bad place, and I've been betrayed by my husband and my own brother. I thought wrongly, it appears, that once we had been apart a while, Roddy would realize that he was making a horrible mistake and come back home. but he didn't. In fact, I'm being made out to be the bad guy in this whole situation, and it's not right. I've done nothing wrong. Since my last post, quite a bit of time has passed, as I have not been able to spend time putting this together with everything that's happening, and I'm really unhappy with my life and the way people are treating me. I came back to write this as, unlike my family, people here actually support me and told me that I was not the person in the wrong. I mean, how could I be? My husband cheated on me with my brother. When I was at the hospital, they told me that I had a breakdown, and they would not sign me out unless I got someone to come and get me and agree to see a doctor about my mental state. I was going to call Sophie, but I thought the best person would be my mother, as after all, she would be able to see that my brother had caused me to be seriously ill. If anyone could help me sort this out, it would be my mom. When she arrived, she was cross that I had not called her sooner, and that I had made them worry when I was not at the house when she came to look for me after Roddy arrived at their house to stay for a few days. Yeah, you heard that right. My husband had to run to my parents and ask to stay with them alongside my brother. Together. To make it worse, they allowed it and had to sit and talk to Roddy and Seb for hours about everything before coming to find me. They left me alone and suffering so they could comfort my cheating husband and my husband's stealing brother. I could not believe what I was hearing. I asked her what the hell she was thinking. How could she let Roddy in the house when she cheated on their daughter? He had broken my heart and she had taken him and Seb into the family home. I told her I was being betrayed all over again, and she said I was being melodramatic, and that I had always been like this. I said that was not the case, how she would feel if this happened to her. She said she would be hurt and confused, but she would not have done what I've done. She tried to make excuses for Roddy and Seb, saying that Roddy had obviously been confused for a long time, and he could not help who he was. She said that she knew that it was awful that my marriage was over, but I had to be realistic and find a way to sort all this out without causing the family to be ripped to pieces. So, I pointed out that the only person causing this was Seb, when he started sleeping with my damn husband. If it was not for Seb, my husband would still be with me where he belonged, and I told my mother to leave, and I would call Sophie to take me home if she's going to betray me like this too. I said she should maybe think about telling her son that he was the bad guy here and to get his claws out from my husband like a vulture, so he could come back home. My mom looked at me with what I can only describe as pity and said, "Sweetheart, he's not coming home. He's finally allowed himself to be real about his sexuality. He will not come home to you." I told her she was talking stupid and get the hell out of my sight. The doctors came rushing back because I was making such a noise and asked my mother to leave. I told them to call Sophie to come and get me, but they said they did not think I was ready to go home, and so I was put into a ward so a psychiatrist could see me and help me process what I was going through. Do you see what's happening? My family's trying to get me put into a crazy house so Seb and Roddy can be together. They're all out for me. They're all against me. This has been some sort of plan on the part of my brother to take everything I have, isn't it? He just does not like that I was happy and that Roddy loves me. He loves me! Once I'm feeling more myself, I will talk to him, and he will see that he is a fool to leave me. It took quite a while to convince the doctors that I was safe to be let out of the hospital. They seemed to think that I was going to hurt myself and that, well, the shock of my husband cheating on me and leaving me had caused me to have a severe breakdown, which led to depression and such. I was not depressed, I was angry. I had to play nice, and finally, they let me go home. Sophie took me home, and when we arrived, it was obvious that Roddy had been back and taken more things from the house, leaving me with things that were mine and enough to furnish the home. There were also letters there waiting for me to divorce him from a divorce lawyer. I was so angry, But I had to keep my rage in check as I don't want to get sent back to the hospital because that is what they want. I will be calm. I will make them suffer for what they've done to me. Update number 3. Hey guys, I'm actually writing this 2 years. Well, after the above updates, and oh dear lord, I read them back and realized that I sounded insane. I mean, to be fair, I was at the time. It's taken a long time and a lot of suffering for me to be, me again, and everyone around me to get to where I am now. But things are better. For months after I returned home, I did everything I could to ruin Roddy and Seb's life. I'm embarrassed to tell you what I did, but my therapist says it's good for me to continue healing and talk about it. Well, my mind could not cope with finding out about my husband being gay and loved my brother, and it broke. That's the easiest way to explain it. I was like a different person. I refused to sign the divorce papers, and I reported both Roddy and Seb to the police constantly for everything I could think of. I lied to my friends, families, and colleagues that Roddy was an abuser, and so many other evil things, because my heart and my mind were broken. My family cut me off completely, and I thought they were all against me, even when they were trying so hard to get help for me. I stopped working, stopped looking after myself, and I lost pretty much everything. The divorce went through as Roddy took me to court, and I was not in the sound mind when it happened. My solicitor, who my father paid for, must have thought he was representing a mad woman. In the end, I lost the house because I did not pay the mortgage or the bills, thinking I was spiting Roddy. I lost my car and license because I was caught and prosecuted for drunk driving. I lost my friends, even Sophie, as I blamed them for betraying me, and I lost my own self-respect. The end came when I saw Seb and Roddy in town, and I attacked Seb, which got me arrested, and I was court-ordered to get help. Well, I learned in my time in the hospital, for the second time, and in therapy, I still have that I have a lot of mental health issues that I've pushed down for a very long time. And finding out that my husband was leaving me pushed me over the edge. I blamed them both for such a long time, but eventually I realized that lots of people get hurt in relationships and don't even act like I did. I was right to be hurt, and I was right to feel betrayed, but I should have handled it very differently from how I did. I think that it's obvious to most people. I've worked really hard to get better and to move on with my life. So, this is where I'm at now. Roddy and Seb are still together and ridiculously in love. Looking at them, I can see that the love I thought I had with Roddy was one-sided, and I was living in a reality inside my own mind. Since I've recovered, people have told me that the relationship I saw was not the relationship everyone else saw. They saw that we were distant and that Roddy looked unhappy. They also saw that my best friend Sophie was not good for me. You see, she knew. She knew the whole time. She knew that Roddy and Seb were together. And she set me up to find out the way that I did. She played the loving friend, but all she did was feed the hate and anger because she was not the nice person I thought she was. My parents did not see that either until they realized she was the one providing me with the fuel for my firing rage. She's now gone from my life. My father fired her. Last I heard, she was living in another town hundreds of miles away. I have a new relationship and I'm happy. I can see for myself now that my marriage to Roddy was not real. It was just that I wanted it to be perfect so badly I didn't even see the cracks. But now, I'm happy. So I leave this here, as a lesson to people to not let anger take over and ruin their lives. I was lucky as my family never gave up on me, and even though they cut me off, they were waiting for me when I got better. I need to end here because in 15 minutes I'm walking down the aisle behind my brother as he gets married to the man of his dreams. Roddy and I could not be happier for them both. Hey guys, I'm Laura. I've come here with a weird situation and I'm not gonna lie. My moral compass is leaning towards the wrong side, all because of my sister, the biggest brat on the planet. Emma, 23, to sum it up, Emma's trying to pull me and my husband Dean apart because she's jealous I'm doing so well in life. She's even manipulated my poor old mother into believing her. And also, I think just maybe, she still has a teensy-weensy crush on my husband. Yeah, my husband. I'm about to throw my D's once I get evidence, but for now, all I can do is seethe. I've always been known around my town for my success as a young female from a middle-class family. My father passed while my mother was pregnant with Emma, and he really didn't leave any worldly possessions for us to live off of. My mother's a school teacher, and the town's tiny elementary school. She raised us with whatever she had in her, and that trait has been on me. I'm a woman known for my resilience, basking in the glory of a cherished marriage. Unfortunately, I don't think Emma got the memo that she's not that rich. The girl worked a single day in her life, and I get that everyone has hardships and everyone deals with them differently. I don't want a freaking rosette for getting my crap together, but I don't want to raise a grown-up. She's 23, living off me and Mom. It's almost like we're raising a little girl with the way she acts. In this economy, she throws parties all the time. And you know who attends them? High school kids. Honestly, I think she peaked in high school and she does not want to let that go. She was like the queen bee or something, and now that she hasn't accomplished anything in life, she's trying to relive her glory days or something. She did not even go to college, claiming she was waiting for a rich husband who would treat her like a princess. She's been with a lot of rich guys, but none of them work out because of her entitlement and bratty attitude. Let me give you an example of what exactly that we have to deal with. So basically, on her 22nd birthday last year, she asked for a very expensive wall mount television. The television she wanted retails for $700. So most of our family members pitched in to buy it for her. I even paid $400 on my mom's insistence, resulting in her only getting 3 other gifts this year from her high school best friends. Wow, she was already mad because she got fewer gifts. It came down to the very last gift from our aunt. Is it just me, or does literally everyone have this one very rich aunt? My sister opened it, and the second she pulled it out, it was a bag. And she said, "Do we have the receipt for this?" It was a nice tote bag, and it had floral patterns all over it, and Mom laughed at what my sister said and told her to look inside the bag. Inside the tote was a lovely Chanel perfume and a box of chocolates. My sister looked at them and then said she did not want any of this, and that her aunt should just return them all. She also got a card from the same aunt, which had $50 in it, and she said, "Oh, there's only $50, cool," when she opened it. After this, she began to cry because she did not like any of the gifts that she got, and because she wanted more. Crying while watching her newly set up Netflix account that I paid for, of course, in her room, on the TV hung on the wall. Thankfully, I don't have to live with her anymore. But my mom puts up with her childish act every single day. At this point, I don't think Mom knows what normal behavior is anymore. She thinks I'm super nice or something when all I do is take her to the doctor, visit every weekend, and DoorDash for her. The literal bare minimum. The thing is, Emma manipulates her a lot, and in her eyes, Emma can do no wrong. She always manages to convince me into splurging on Emma for her sake, reminding me how hard it was for us as children. Emma brings up the fact that we both grew up without a dad, a lot, and guilt trips Mom all the time. She says bad stuff about our dad and how he did not leave anything behind for us, or how he did not pull through for his daughter. Yeah, singular, she doesn't give a crap about my stance on this one. And she even said he had the nerve to die on us. Mom listens to her. Feeling terrible, I keep telling my mother she should be watchful for signs of manipulation. such as frequent guilt-tripping, emotional manipulation, consistent lying, attempts at isolation, controlling behavior, lack of empathy, and most importantly, financial exploitation. I've tried to talk to her and get her to ask Emma to move out, or at least follow her passion and build some sort of career. She won't budge. I try to steer clear of Emma and her toxic energy, and I moved out when I got married a couple of years back. But I send home money regularly, as I'm doing really well in life, financially and emotionally. My marriage with Dean is a miracle. He's the most important person to me, and he means the world to me. We've built a strong bond of love, trust, and mutual support over the years. Dean is my rock, my confidant and my partner in crime. The crime being dousing on Coca-Cola and chips laying in bed watching Breaking Bad on the laptop, and not shutting the bathroom door while going. We've always had an awesome understanding of each other, and our connection is absolutely unbreakable. Let's come to that now. So, I met Dean about 8 years ago at a freshers party that the company we work for held. We had a fight because I was drunk and he tried to cut me off before I did anything inappropriate. He was driving me home when I was almost passed out, also mildly intoxicated, but the police caught us on the way back and we spent a night in jail. Full of constant bickering about whose fault it was, and after the night we had a huge rivalry and you could cut the tension with a knife. It was kinda straining the office environment, and we had to be sent to the HR's room a couple of times to resolve petty arguments. Eventually, I just gave in and apologized. Then he did too. After I did, that petty little jerk. And we went out for beers just to smooth it out. Turns out we get along pretty well. We started going on dates after that night and, well, smooshed booties. Workplace ethic, y'all. And after only a year of being together, he proposed to me on a romantic getaway. Nothing too far, you know how it is when getting leaves from work, right? And we got married on, you guessed it, the same date the fresher party was. It was a huge wedding and more than half of the town was there. The only weird thing that happened in our relationship was when Emma accidentally, yeah right, sent nudes to Dean. He thankfully did not show them to me, he just told me about this little incident and asked me to make sure my sister is safe online. See, he's so innocent. He didn't even realize my sister very intentionally sent that. I mean, come on, how do you accidentally send nudes to someone you literally never text? She's always been flirtatious, but Dean has been completely oblivious to it. She bats her eyelashes and giggles at his jokes, and he thinks she's like his younger sister. Well, to be honest, it was not the only weird thing that happened, but I don't hold it against her because she was ridiculously sloshed. A few years ago, I went to my friend's 21st birthday, and Dean picked me up because I was drinking. My sister was drunk, since she drank almost every night. Mind you, she's 17, and my mom was working her second job as a waitress during the night because things were getting tight, and asked us to come over since she was lonely. Of course, we said yes. She then started asking weird questions, like about our intimacy life, which was not something we like to discuss openly with other people, especially my sister, who cannot be trusted. She then continued to talk about stuff I discussed with her in private about, well, coitus with my boyfriend, which I don't think is appropriate at all. She went on to say that I should wear lingerie for him, and how he needs that, and I'm a terrible girlfriend if I can't provide him with his needs. Dean then said, bless his heart, he doesn't expect anything from me I'm not comfortable with. She then ranted about how she wore it all the time for her boyfriends. I'm not shaming her, but yes, boyfriends and highly inappropriate because she's a minor, and offered to take him upstairs and show him. But clearly, I put my foot down and said that was obviously not going to happen. After that, we cleared out, and Dean and I had a laugh about it. When I and Dean had that silly little office rivalry, Emma was so mad at me. She told me that Dean was her dream guy and that I'm hurting her chances by being rude to him. She claimed he was rich, absolute eye candy, and a sweet guy in general, innocent and just waiting to be exploited by her. I didn't really object to her delusions. I hated Dean at the time. She did try to pursue him, but he's basically sister-zoned her the minute they started interacting. It's actually what made me see him in a new light. And before you call me an a-hole for stealing her man, I actually asked her before dating him, and she said yes. But she gave me a really weird answer. She was like, no one's gonna stay with the klutz that you are. You'll trip him right into my arms sooner or later, right? Well, I ignored this because I was used to her weird comments. Well, our happy-go-lucky relationship was the talk of the town, because Dean is the mayor's son. All the skeptics gossiping about how I was probably marrying him for money shut up when they came to our wedding, because the wedding was not grandiose or anything, no. The walls were covered with pictures of us, our special moments, and it was all very personal and rustic. The centerpieces were replaced with cosmos that we grew together in his garden. The wedding was not just meant to be big, it was meant to celebrate our love, and it did just that. In our relationship, there's a sense of security and comfort that I've never experienced before. Oops, daddy issues. We've made this small safe haven for each other, where we can openly spew BS, share our silly dreams and stupid fears, and work through the challenges that we came across at our jobs. After all, we do work together in the same company, you know. Dean is my greatest supporter and motivator, encouraging me to pursue my goals and dreams. My life with Dean was one that many looked upon with longing, especially my younger sister Emma, infamous for her drama-fueled antics. My mother was the happiest woman alive, other than me of course, when I informed her that I was getting married to Dean. She had been rooting for us since the day one, and even predicted that we'd be together when we were office nemesis. She'd ask me all the dang time, "So, Laura, when is he popping the question?" She didn't even know he was the mayor's son until Emma brought it up to her and told her I was lucky for bagging a man of her dreams, and that either way she was going to exploit him somehow. These comments have made me very protective of Dean, and I almost always keep him away from her. I limit their interactions and make sure I'm supervising any conversation that they're having. Dean just finds it so weird that I hover around when they're hanging out, but he trusts me and knows I have my reasonings. I'd tell him, but I'm not gonna lie. I'm a bit embarrassed by her whole "I want a rich man" BS, and don't have the heart to tell him she only wants to get into his wallet and not actually talk to him or be his friend. Because, well, he does really like her act anyways. Of course, I keep Dean's finances separate and make sure not a dollar of his is spent by Emma or any other snakes that Dean is too nice to see through. So, after years of our marriage, we've been stronger than ever, and Mom has been happy with it. My in-laws are extremely kind and sweet, and we might start preparing to have a kid soon. Our house was bought by both of us only after a year of marriage, not his parents or any debt left. Though, to be fair, it is a small town and house rates are significantly cheaper here. We honestly feel very content and happy, busy with our petty fights and silly cold wars over the last pizza slice. So yeah, it was really peculiar when Mom called at 1 a.m., sounding like she was about to be murdered or something. Unexpectedly, I received a distress call from her just a few days ago. She was wailing, and it was hard to get anything from her. After about 30 minutes of sobbing over the phone and me asking whether I should drive over if there's something wrong, I finally get her to breathe and stop sounding out like a siren. Through bated breaths and sniffles, though, I could barely make out what she was actually saying initially. So I just hung up and drove to her house and, well, leaving a note behind for Dean. When I got there, I could not see Emma anywhere, so I immediately got concerned and thought something was wrong with her. When I asked Mom, though, she told me that Emma was out with this new man and that she'd be back tomorrow evening. How convenient now that I think about it. Anyways, I sat Mother down on the couch, and after I made her some soup and asked her what was up, tearfully she shared a shocking revelation. Dean was allegedly carrying out an affair with his ex, Selena. She told me that Dean was cheating on me and had been unfaithful for almost a month or two. She refused to elaborate when I pressed for more information, though, and she did not tell me her source or give me any proof. When I asked her who told her this, she just skirted around it, claiming I did not trust her enough and that I should just believe her if she was saying something like this. She then slyly added that if I knew from whom she heard it, I simply would not believe her, but that she had seen the whole thing playing out right there in front of her own eyes. She started discussing my options, asking me to file for divorce immediately, and she implored me to leave Dean at once, insisting that she had conclusive proof and evidence, but she still would not tell me what the proof was. Whether it was pictures, text messages, receipts, or God knows what. The only thing she kept insisting on was that I needed to divorce Dean. Yet, something did not quite add up. Like, my mother did not know who Selena is. She could not be lying, but she might have been misinformed. Remember, I mentioned that night we decided to have a couple of beers and end the rivalry? So, this one night, a couple more hangouts after that one, we were both wasted, and we started talking about our past. He did bring up this chick, Selena, and how she was, quote, the one that got away. He said there was no real reason for their breakup other than the fact that she moved to another country as a traveling nurse. He then mentioned how he'd completely healed and moved on, and that those memories were bittersweet, but he had something new now, and perhaps better to focus on. That was actually the night our relationship took a turn. A very sharp turn. With both of us being raw and honest and him confessing he liked me. One thing stuck out to me from my memories of sitting next to my crying mother. He said she was not going to be back in the US for at least 10 years, due to her education, internship, and overall contract. So that meant there were at least 2 years for her to come back now. This was how I deducted that her solid proof was probably just a text message. I actually remembered Selena vaguely. She was a lovely young woman, my junior in high school, and on the debate team with me. We met at a reunion for about a minute or two and made small talk, only a couple of weeks before she left. Man, I'll be honest with you. She was hot. I mean, I'm not into other women, but if I were, she would be my crush. Dean Pools? So yeah, there was a logical possibility that Dean may have been texting her. But I trust Dean. There's no proof on earth that could make me think Dean was cheating. By reasoning, one could deduce that he might have been cheating, but deep down inside, I could feel that he would never cheat. Plus, he literally has no reason to. You know what I mean? I came to the conclusion that she was obviously being influenced and brainwashed by someone. No prizes for whoever manages to guess who I'm suspecting now. I remembered my mother being vulnerable to manipulation when emotionally distressed, particularly by one person. With her ongoing health issues, she had been just that, constantly on edge and worried for our future. No wonder she was so paranoid. I could not shake off the suspicion that Emma was exploiting this vulnerability. Emma, my, spoiled younger sister, has a history of jealousness towards my marriage, and well, especially when contrasted with her own tumultuous love life. The types of guys that she attracts are rich boys that are, well, not the nicest, with daddy's money and not a worry in the world of responsibility. Obviously, she had trouble holding down a guy. All the nice rich guys stayed away from her because she was so dang rude. The jealousy had become increasingly noticeable, causing me to believe this was another attempt from Emma to sabotage my happiness. All these stupid things like forcing herself onto Dean, making me look terrible in front of him, and constantly being a jerk are why I keep Dean away from her completely. Well, honestly, I don't think he likes her very much either at this point, even though he insists she's just like his baby sister, and is not upfront about his irritation. Emma's the only reason I'm scared to have a child. What if she turns out like my sister? I mean, I practically brought Emma up, because Mom was too busy providing for us to be really there in Emma's formative years. Emma has repulsive opinions and stances in life, but I never thought she was a bad person. Until now. I have not ever talked to anyone except Dean about this particular insecurity of mine. That it's my fault Emma turned out this way, and I keep thinking I'll be a bad mother. Ignoring my mother's frantic plea, I decided to trust Dean, viewing the allegations as mere concoctions of my sister's envy-filled mind. I explained to my mother that I trusted Dean, and that whatever she heard from his quote unknown source was complete, utter crap. She even grabbed onto me as I left, pleading for me to believe her. I said, "Unless you give up your source, I'm not going to believe you, Mom. I've heard you out, and I shall do my own research now. But Mom, you cannot ask me to divorce the love of my life over some rumors you won't even elaborate on." I left and drove back home. It was 5 by then, so I worked out, took a shower, ate the breakfast that Dean made, and we went to work. Surprisingly, Dean did not ask me what happened when I came home. He just acknowledged my tiredness and left me sleep for a bit after breakfast, and on the way towards work, he picked up some of my work slack at the office. He knows it's just one of those days. Anyways, we came back home and now I'm sitting here, writing this on my throwaway account. I thought about talking to Emma, but I know she's never going to fess up. Same with Mom. Emma brainwashed her into thinking that she was doing something right. I'd talk to Dean, but I want to research by myself before telling him what I've heard. I mean, I love Dean a lot, and I know there's not even a single slight chance he would do this. But there must be something that aroused suspicion, right? I'm really lost on this entire situation. So, guys, what should I do? What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. So today's story is one heck of a ride. I do have 3 updates for you guys. I've compiled every single update from the original post, and we're going to jump into update number 1. If you're new to the channel, take a second. Hit that subscribe button. It really supports out the channel a lot, and this way, you'll never miss an upload. Alright, here's your update. Hey guys, I'm back with an update. But first, I'd like to address some of the comments here. I'm sorry that you'll have such a weak, insecure mindset, or that you're also traumatized by your past that you can't physically believe someone can have so much faith in their partner. I mean, I don't blind trust in Dean. I trust him so completely, with all of my soul, because I know him. This man ditched his best friend because he found out he was cheating on his wife. He despises infidelity so much that I think he would rather not be alive if he accidentally touched somebody's boobs in a moving bus. The only condition we both had at the very start was that if we wanted to pursue people outside of our relationship, we would just end it right there because there's no point being with someone who can't keep their privates inside their pants. Anyways, thank you for your concern and I really appreciate the advice. My mom sent me the screenshots of chats with Selena. Honestly, the evidence was pretty damning. I even started to doubt him for a second, but then I realized screenshots can be edited. I noted down her Instagram handle from the screenshot, but guess what? My account's blocked. But I knew she had an alternative account because I saw her post all the time, so I looked after Selena. I know, don't come at me. Turns out she's actually back home with her parents for vacation. Crap, why didn't I not think of vacations? Anyways, I met Selena under the pretense that we were meeting to catch up. I mean, we kinda were. So when we met, I got her talking. She talked about her health camps and how she was helping refugees and people who can't afford health care, along with working in the best hospitals alongside doctors. I'm really proud of her, actually. Anyways, then I asked her a pretty personal question. How and why did her relationship end with Dean, and did she ever text after? She seemed a little awkward, but I eased her into the conversation and she started yapping. She told me that their relationship ended because she was simply moving, the same reason that Dean told me, and that it simply would not work out. Then she told me something that really surprised me. She told me that only sometimes after she left, she had actually texted Dean. She missed him, and that maybe they could manage long distance. Dean told her, he even showed me the text, "I'm sorry, Sally. I think our separation was for the best. I care about you, I really do. But I met this girl at the office's fresher party, a chick named Laura. She hates my guts, but she apologized today, and I don't know. Maybe I can confess that I really like her over beers we're planning on getting this evening." I started crying. Man, I was doubting this guy for a second. Anyways, I scrolled through the messages when she was not looking, and there weren't many, so it was pretty easy. Most of them were kind messages, just checking up on her well-being over every birthday and small life updates. He'd actually said a lot of adorable things about me, which made me cry even more. I showed her the screenshots Mom sent me and explained my entire predicament. She told me this account was fake, not hers. Well, we went after the account together. It was a public account. She told me all these pictures were from her private Facebook, and we checked her friends, and right there, clear as day, was Emma. Selena wished me the best of luck and we parted our ways. Now I have this new information about Emma and I don't know what to do with it. Anyways, that's all for now. Update number 2. Hey guys, I'm so happy right now. I mean, not really. I guess relieved would be more accurate and perhaps satisfied by the sweet, sweet revenge that I've gotten. I finally got the evidence, y'all. Clear as day. Crystal. I confronted Emma on her birthday. Yeah, you heard that correctly. On her birthday. So, the other day I went snooping through her phone to get the evidence that she was the one trying to thwart my perfect life. That bratty little jerk. I stumbled upon a trove of emails and text messages. And, well, the shocking discovery, I was even surprised really, revealed that Emma had been impersonating Selena in an attempt to seduce Dean. Dean, unbeknownst to me, had been receiving these deceitful messages but chose to ignore them, remaining steadfastly loyal to me, and I mean I was still angry at him for not telling me. But okay. He even sent a very long direct message to her, requesting her not to message him, and that he knew this was not Selena as he regularly texted her. He told her to back off, as he had a, quote, beautiful goddess firecracker of a wife. So, there was no point. How convenient that this was not in the screenshot that Mom sent, huh? I opened her gallery and found all the edited screenshots. Bingo. Emma's plot thus got unraveled, showing her scheming nature in its full glory. I just logged onto her Google from my phone so that I could access everything, but oh boy, I found way more than I was looking for. From her Instagram to her Gmail to her, adult content. Okay, I was not expecting that one. Mom has raised us to be extremely modest, and while I'm not shaming anyone for how they choose to earn their money, my family has a huge reputation as we're one of the oldest families around here. My aunt is practically a legend, and everyone looks at us to carry on the legacy. So, let's go ahead and fast forward 3 days late, her birthday. I was supposed to create a special slideshow for her. Whoops, classic Bridal Wars moment. I guessed the wrong thing somehow played and I exposed everything she said and did. Except the adult content that's much more personal conversation, and I would never do that to her. And something unexpected happened. Dean snapped. Not me, not my mom, not Emma. Dean. Dean was the one who absolutely burst. He gave quite a long earful to Emma, who just stood there cowering and listening to his harsh words. I was really turned on, to be honest. Well, the party died down pretty quickly, and the guests that were planning on staying left too. When I was sure everybody left, I asked Dean to take an Uber home as I had something I had to say in private. He just shrugged and left. Wow. He's not happy. He was not happy then and not happy now, and I'll get to him eventually, but let's go back to the topic. Mom, I told her all about the adult content. I actually contemplated on whether to tell her or not several times. She looked so defeated by how everything turned out. Well, that jerk inside of me told her. That set her off and she kicked me out of the house, telling me she had a long conversation to have, and I was honestly terrified for Emma, but also kind of happy and satisfied that she was finally being shown the mirror and being called out for her toxicity, especially by her mother. That was long overdue. The next morning, I woke up to a text, told her to get out and stand on her own 2 feet. She has a week before she's on the street or somewhere else. Either way, she won't be here for my mother. That was about half an hour ago, and here I am posting this update, so yeah, I'm actually happy with how everything turned out, I guess. Update number 3. Hey guys, so I'm back. No drama this time, well, a little less drama. So obviously with everything that went down last time, Dean's figured out how I was hiding my sister's behavior and exposing him to potential exploitation and predation. I told him to hold his horses. I mean, what she did was not criminal level bad, right? She was just desperate for attention. Anyways, I told him that he was the one talking about hiding things since he never told me about this whole thing with the fake account and my sister impersonating Selena. Well, if he'd been upfront about it, this would not have happened in the first place, right? Like, let's be for real. Well, we made up in a pretty pleasant way. I'd say so. Also, I know you're all random strangers on the internet, but I just want you to know you're secretly invested. So guess what? Your girl is pregnant. Apparently, we got it only on our second try. Pretty quick, right? So yeah, he forgave me pretty quickly for not telling him about Emma when I played the pregnancy card. I know it's wrong, but come on. So yeah, I'm finally done with dealing with Emma. Okay, so I'm not really. Fine, this time I'm being the pushover instead of Mom, who is quite frankly still very mad that I think she'll murder Emma if she decides to go back there in the recent future. Okay, so I did a little something to get Emma started. I got her a small job at one of my friend's startups. She's the coffee-carrying paid intern for now, but we'll see how that goes, LOL. And I paid her deposit for a teeny-weeny apartment that resembles the relative size of her heart. I gave her the rent for the first month, and that way, she won't be completely homeless. Oh my, As I'm typing this, I realize my mother knew I'd help her out. She's obviously just wasn't going to let Emma sleep on the streets of an extremely safe suburb, but still. So yeah, that's it I guess, guys. I just want to say thank you and bye. Thanks for all the kind comments, advice, dumb and good, and the incoming congratulations. Show some love in the comments, y'all. Thanks again. Hey everyone, how are you guys? I don't post on social media unless I absolutely have to, but my life is actually going downhill right now. It's so bad, I'm not even sure I can ever get it any worse. I've never experienced such pain in my life, and I did not even know I could be going through something like this in my life because, well, my life has always been somewhat sheltered. I don't mean this in a, oh, I've never had to go through anything in my life because I'm so privileged type of way. But it's like, how do I explain this? My life has always been a very straight line. There have not been any major events that altered my brain chemistry or anything like that. The most grief I went through was when my pet hamster died, because I sneezed too loud. I mean, hamsters die in the weirdest ways. My sneeze had absolutely no right being shamed by the family as much as it did, but oh well. Anyways, so that was the hardest thing for me as a child. As a teenager, I had a pretty smooth sailing life as well. I had a nice family, my friends were cool. Everything was according to how it should be and how it, well, made me happy. About the family thing, let's talk about that. I had to later realize that it was not actually perfect, and we didn't have a happy family that loved each other and did everything together. No. As kids, we would always say that we would give our lives for each other, but clearly, there's been some sort of miscommunication along the way. Instead, it was the very, very opposite. As an adult, everything I ever believed in has been turning on me, so I'm not sure what I believe in right now, but I'll figure it out. I always do. Anyways, I tend to move away from the topic too much. Sorry, that's bad habit that tends to never leave me. Got me in trouble in a lot of areas of my life as well. So, this story mostly involves how my family ducked me over. I mean, technically, I was on topic. I thought my family would never do something like this to me, but I guess in life, you kind of have to expect the unexpected. Before I start telling you guys the real part why I posted, I just need to give you guys a bit of background context on the people involved in the story. The first person involved is obviously my husband, Kevin. He is, or, well, I should say, my partner in crime in everything. Everything that we did was together. He wasn't just my husband, he was my best friend, and my companion all in one. His smile would always light up the room, and it did not matter how crappy or gross my day was. He would always just make it better. From the first time I met him, I knew that his charm could win over anyone. It certainly won me over from the moment that we met. Speaking of which, we met at a local coffee shop, of all the places. I know, you probably hear that all the time. Well, not really, right? And soon, those coffee dates turned into countless memorable experiences together. Currently, it's been around 5 years since we've been married, I think. We dated for 3.5 to 4 years as well, so it's been around 9 or 10 years since we've been married, and throughout all these years, I've never expected Kevin to be the one to betray me. Especially this badly. I mean, I did not expect anyone to betray me this badly, but Kevin, oh Kevin, was the last person on my list for someone I thought to do something like this. And it's not just Kevin who decided to betray me. I mean, this entire story involves my sister as well. Let me introduce them to you guys. I have 3 sisters. Olivia, Sophia, and Emily, 24, 28, and 30 respectively. I also have a brother who's 35, and all of us are happily married. Well, so we thought. This entire thing has ended up with not just 1, but 3 broken marriages in the span of months. Yeah, I said 3. My sisters and I were always very close. We did everything together because we don't have that much of an age gap, so it was very easy for us to bond. We went to parties together, we hung out at night together, and we did crazy videos. I mean, everything. Anything that you can imagine sisters doing together, we did it. We were so close as kids, I thought that we were always going to be this close, because even just like a year ago, we were inseparable. Not even a year, I'm talking a few months ago, we were absolutely inseparable, and now I don't think I can trust them with anything in my life. They betrayed me so badly, I don't know how I'm ever going to get over it. Anyways, I'll let you guys know what happened now because I'm just taking too much time in the introduction of the characters. I keep telling the characters, even though they're family members, but right now, they don't feel like family members to me at all. Actually, I would consider a stranger as more of a family member than I would consider most of them. So what happened was, as it turned out, my husband and I did not have a perfect marriage. Not at all. Instead, we actually had a very terrible marriage. But for some reason, I was not aware of the fact, and I thought that we were in love, that everything was going great, and that both of us were super happy, but apparently, Kevin was not as happy as I was. 2 months ago, I found out that my husband was not loyal to me. It's not like he was loyal to the other girl as well, because there was not just one girl, but there were two. And guess what? The two women that he was dating behind my back, well, you might have guessed it, they were my sisters. Yeah, exactly my point. My reaction is the same as you guys, probably right now. I mean, who could believe this? Your own sister is dating your husband behind your back. Absolutely ridiculous if you ask me, and I never thought I'd have to live to see a day when my younger sisters would steal my husband. So, the two sisters, Sophia and Emily. Olivia probably had nothing to do with it because she is also the youngest, and I know how important family is to her. I did my research as well, so I'm extra positive on that one. You can't blame me for it, though, because I thought that Emily and Sophia could not do anything like this either, but they did. So, there was no guarantee that Olivia would not do anything like this either. That's why I had to recheck. I was very pleased to see, though, that Olivia did not betray me at all. I guess it felt nice that at least one sister was by my side. It also wasn't like a one-time thing where I immediately found out that he was cheating on me or something like that. It took me months of analyzing his behavior, calculating his actions, seeing what he was up to, how he was acting. I'm talking about everything. For some reason, his routine started changing as well. He'd leave home early and come back really late, saying that he had a lot of work that he had to get done and that he had taken on this big project that was requiring all this time, knowledge, and attention. I believed him at first because, yeah, I guess your job can sometimes give you hard tasks to do or a crap load of work to do in such a short span. I mean, it's happened to me before, you know. So it's not really that unbelievable or a big deal if he's going through that as well. But that's the thing. He was not going through anything like that, and there was no big project that he needed to work on as well. He was spending his entire time two-timing with my sisters. Actually, wait. Not two-timing, but I'm talking about three-timing, because he wasn't just dating one of my sisters behind my back, he was dating two of them. So, I made up this plan to try to find evidence of whatever he's been up to so I can finally confront him. Initially, the thought that he could be cheating on me, it simply didn't even cross my mind, but then one day, he was in the shower when his phone starts to beep with notifications, so obviously I just grabbed the phone to see if it was something work-related in case he needed to go, or anything like that. When I checked the notification, though, the name on the phone, it said Babe, and the person had sent him some very, pictures. First of all, the name blew my mind. I was so angry because clearly this person was not me, as I'm not texting him right now. And he should not call anyone else babe when, he's married to me. So who the hell was this person? Then I open up the chat to see that the girl had sent him very, explicit pictures. At that time, I could not figure out who the girl was because she cropped her face out from the pictures because it was angled in such a way. When he came out of the shower, I wanted to throw the phone at his face and ask for an explanation of everything, but I thought to myself, I should hold back. The only reason I did that was because I wasn't even sure how I should go on about this. Do I scream? Do I leave? How do I react? What do I do? It was very confusing, and I just didn't want anything to go wrong and just think impulsively, so I kept quiet, pretending like everything was okay when he came out. It was so hard, though, because I literally wanted to gag when he came up and kissed me. All I could think was, and I quote you this, "Oh, how many women have kissed this exact mouth even while he was married to me?" My brain was hurting so bad just thinking about it, and I ignored him the entire day and just wanted some sleep. Later, though, I finally realized that I needed to confront him and just let him know that I was aware of everything that was happening. So when he came back from work, I waited to greet him even though he came back at like 1 a.m. I was waiting right there on the sofa. You can't avoid me, I'm right here. When he entered the house, he looked, really weird. I mean, not in a bad way, but in a way that it was very clear that he had not just come from work. I don't know how I missed it all these days, but I finally saw him. I finally saw it right then and there. Maybe it was because of the fact that I knew that he did not come from work, or maybe it was the fact that I was actually noticing what he looks like for the first time and not being a lovesick puppy that believes anything that he tells me. Anyways, I decided to just straight up confront him, and so I stopped him before he could even reach the stairs to go up to our bedroom, and I tell him, "I've seen your phone, and that I know that he was cheating on me." First of all, he starts absolutely screaming at me and telling me that I had no right to go through his phone like I was not his wife and like he was not cheating on me with another woman. I mean, who does he think he is? So I screamed back because I had no way to control my anger, and we were just having a screaming match at each other endlessly. He was telling me that he was not cheating on me and that I was mistaken or something, and that even if I did check his phone, I could not know for sure if it was a random wrong message that he got because I just checked the notifications and did not open the chat. That's when I decided that enough was enough. I wasn't going to let him treat me like this, so I grabbed his phone from his hand and ran to the kitchen, but he chased me. But I uttered to him to stay back. And I guess I must have looked pretty angry because he did stay back. I decided to call the first number of a girl I could see with a heart emoji by her name on the phone and see who actually it was so that I had more concrete proof and evidence, just to confront him and finally break him free from all his lies. So I did it. I called up the number and I got the biggest shock of my entire life because as soon as the woman said, "Hello," I recognized it was my sister, Emily. I was so shocked because I did not expect this to be my sister, right? So I screamed at her and I asked her why she was cheating on her husband with my husband and why she was sending him all these explicit pictures. While I was screaming at her and she was crying and apologizing, she paused and told me that she had never sent any explicit pictures, though. Oh boy. Now, I'm obviously really confused at this point because I saw them with my own darn eyes, so there's no way that the first time was my hallucination or something. Anyways, I told her that she was wrong. I saw the pictures, but she did not believe me because she literally said this, "No, I never sent them." That's when I looked at my husband to see the guiltiest expression on his face. While Emily was still on the call, he told both of us that those pictures, well, they were actually not from Emily. They were from my other sister, Sophia. This entire thing went to crap immediately because that's when both of us realized that he was actually dating 3 women at the same time and all 3 of us were sisters. So I decided to call Sophia and Emily to my house because I was like, I need to sort this out and I need to have a conversation with all them present to see what was actually going on. I also made Kevin stay in the room while all three of us were conversing because I told him that he was involved in it as much as we were and that I demanded an explanation from all three of them and not just the women involved. All three of them start screaming, crying, doing everything that guilty people do, and I just tried so hard to not let them freeze me because they disrespected me and they ruined my life. That's when I decided that I was going to divorce Kevin and that I was never going to talk to my sisters again. When I announced what I was going to do to all three of them, they started begging for my forgiveness and telling me that if I did that, then they would be exposed because everybody would know what they've done, and that would potentially ruin their life. Both my sisters had husbands, and they were well respected in their neighborhood and within their social circles, so if everyone found out that they cheated, it would bring so much chaos, not just to the family name, but to their reputation as well. Especially because Emily just got married very recently. I mean, I think they just celebrated their 1-year anniversary, so for her to cheat this early in the marriage, oh my goodness, it was going to be hell from now on. Honestly, I really hope that they go through heck, because they've made me go through it. I feel like a bad person saying this, but guys, it's true. What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. So believe it or not, I have 4 jam-packed drama-filled updates, and I'm gonna tell you right now, these were not easy to find. Couple of them were located in the original post comments, and then another one was updated just a little while longer. But guys, pause the video right now, scroll down to the comment section, and let me know, do you think OP is going to go no contact and actually divorce Kevin, or is she going to forgive them? Then we'll come back after the story's over and see how close you were. Okay, also, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We're so close to 60,000 subscribers, so let's do it. Here is update number 1. Okay, hello. I'm back with another update. So you guys remember how the last time I talked to you guys, I told you how much my siblings and my husband betrayed me, and I mentioned how I was going to divorce my husband and never go to speak to my siblings again. So if you thought that, well, you're right, I did that. But doing that meant that the entire family found out what they did, including their husbands. Now, I forgot to mention this is the main update that I gave above, but Sophia's husband is kind of crazy. So he went very wild when he found out what Sophia was doing behind his back, and let me just tell you, he got very, very unpredictable. Emily got divorced from her husband as well, but Sophia did not. Somehow she managed to convince her husband, Billy, that they should not get divorced and that Sophia was simply sorry for whatever she did. The craziest part about all this is that Billy came over to my house a few months after everything. Like, after 3 months, I exposed all 3 of them to the entire family. He comes scrolling by to my house and starts rambling about how angry he is with Sophia and how he actually has not forgiven her for cheating. But she was being very stubborn, so he let her be. But now, look at this. He's planning on a little bit of revenge. Actually, wait. The craziest part of the revenge involved killing my ex-husband, Kevin. Yeah, you heard that right. Billy is planning on killing my ex-husband because he was the one that his wife cheated on him with. He came over to my house because he was asking me if I wanted to join him in the entire plan and if I wanted to help kill my ex-husband. I obviously told him, Billy, no. Because there's no way I'm going to kill someone, not Kevin. I mean, even if I wanted to, or he did betray me, made me lose my entire self-respect, and basically made me go into a very crappy mental state, there's no way I was going to help Billy kill him. Billy got very frustrated when I said no. He obviously was not used to taking no for an answer, So he tried to persuade me even more, and he gave me this very, very precise plan about how he was going to do it. What was going to be involved, and everything else that could be planned that he was going to do. I firmly said, "No, Billy, because I can't kill someone." But he kept coming over to my house every other day, trying to convince me to go with the plan, and at one point I started to get pretty scared. Well, very, very scared, because he was not backing away. He would not budge, even when I told him that Kevin left me and moved to another city after we got into an argument when I was confronting him. This happened the day after I confronted him with my sisters, and because I was still very angry, and yeah, he too gets frustrated, he booked a flight for the same night to another city, and he left, and decided to move there forever. Well, we did get divorced a month after that, but it was still very crappy of him to do it. Anyways, Billy was ready to go to another country just to commit murder. I tried explaining to him that it was not going to work and that he should not commit such a big crime and get blood on his hands for something like this. But Billy, he was not taking no for an answer. So, well, I feel really bad because even though it's been months, and even though Kevin did this to me, I still felt a bit of love for him, even though I hate his guts now. I wasn't going to let anyone murder him, so I tried to stop Billy from thinking of the plan, but I don't know if I convinced him at this point. I really hope so, though, because he went home that night and told me that he would try and not think about his murder plot. Well, I guess we'll see what happens next. Updates number 2. Well, it's time for another update, so as it turns out, my brother-in-law actually did not, stop thinking about murdering my ex-husband. I'm absolutely devastated right now, to be honest with you. Absolutely devastated. And I can't believe that I even have to type these words out because they feel so unreal. And they make me want to crawl out of my skin, but Billy actually decided and managed to go on with the plan, and unfortunately, Kevin, he was actually murdered by Billy. I don't know what to think right now because it's the fact that Billy could have done something like this when he was married to my sister that's very frightening. What if my sister did something like that and he killed her? It's not like I feel very different because Kevin was my family too, and even though, we were divorced, and even though he did something as bad as cheating on me with my own sisters, he was still my ex-husband and I cared for him a lot. To see him brutally murdered like this is just bringing me so much pain, and I don't know what to do or think. I'm also drowning with guilt because my ex-husband actually begged me to help him with the situation because he found out that my brother-in-law was going to try to kill him. Billy started sending threatening messages to Kevin soon after he talked to me, and I didn't know that he was doing that, but Kevin texted me this one night, and he was like, "Hey, Billy's threatening me." I refused to believe him, but then I remembered that Billy was talking to me about his plan, and he sounded very serious, especially because he's known for his hostile, volatile, unpredictable behavior. I still didn't want to help because he broke my heart and he was out of the country, so I didn't think that Billy could actually manage to even find him. I also thought he was overreacting, so I refused to help. I should have helped him, though, because Billy was driven by his uncontrollable rage and he actually managed to get to Kevin, and it's tragic, but he killed him. I don't know why he decided to take matters into his own hands, though. Like, he could have just filed for a divorce like a normal person and just get Sophia out of his life. And then, I don't know, do something to make her suffer emotionally? Why did he have to go around murdering people for revenge? It was so stupid. And now I'm grieving my ex-husband who was murdered by my brother-in-law because he was cheating on me with my brother-in-law's wife, who's my sister. This is crazy. This whole situation's so messed up, and if I told anyone this, they would think that I'm telling them a movie plot because of how crazy it sounds, but it's reality, and I'm living in it. The authorities also managed to find out that this happened, and I also gave them proof that they needed to arrest Billy, because I just could not let him get away with something like this. It was morally, logically, incredibly wrong. So I stood in court and gave my testimony of how Billy was trying to get me into the plan. But I refused, and how Kevin was telling me about all this, but I thought he was overreacting, so I refused to listen as well. It was mainly because of me that Billy managed to get arrested. Because I gave them concrete proof evidence and showed them text messages and conversations that I've had with Kevin and Billy about the entire situation. Even though Billy is now arrested, and, well, Kevin is dead, I'm so uncomfortable in my life right now. Anxiety, I'm just terrified that Billy's going to come after me. I don't know. Escape a jail cell or something. And I could not stop feeling so guilty about Kevin dying because it's technically my fault that I didn't protect him. I knew what was going on and I still let him get murdered. I don't know what to do anymore. I think I'm going to cry. Update number 3. Guys, Billy is still in jail after killing my ex-husband, and he's also like, I said, my sister's husband, the same sister who hooked up with my husband behind my back. But guys, when Billy got arrested, Sophia was very sad because she thought that she and Billy were finally recovering and doing everything to save their little relationship. That was absolutely ridiculous if you ask me, and she started blaming me, telling me that I basically ruined her chances of her getting her life back together. I mean, what? I tried explaining to her, honey, your husband is a serial killer, and that there's no way that she should spend her life with someone like that, because there's no guarantee that Billy would not do the same to her if she makes him mad. She did not listen to me, though, because even though I made these logical, rational arguments, she hated me, because apparently I ruined her life and all that nonsense, so she kept on crapping on me for doing what I did. She also managed to get Emily against me somehow, even though Emily was at fault as well because she also hooked up with my husband. She gaslighted Emily into making her believe that I ruined both of their lives, since I exposed them and that they were doing something like this to everyone. She basically got Emily to admit that it was not as big of a deal as everybody made it out to be, and then I should not have done what I did. Well, now 2 of my sisters are against me, even though I completely believe that they were the ones against me during the first time, because why else would you cheat on your sister's husband if you don't hate your sister's guts in the first place, right? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. Oh my gosh, I'm still so angry about this. Thinking about it makes me want to scratch their face off like a cat. They also tried to get our mom on their side as well because they told my mother that they had lost a lot of friends in their life now. Also, told her that they're completely ruined because Emily's husband divorced her. With all this emotional manipulation at play, they tried to get my mom to feel bad for them, but what they did not realize is that my mother is very, very smart. She understood that this was something that cannot be forgiven. And she was still on my side, even though those 2 were practically trying their level best to dig my grave. Update number 4. This is the final update. Okay, so I know that all 3 of my updates have been very harsh and, well, very sad, because everything's just been going wrong with me, but this one is kind of happy, believe it or not. I'm not exactly happy, but it's heartwarming and it's making me want to cry. It's been 1 month since Billy got arrested for killing my ex-husband, and I was going through everything that I've mentioned in the past updates, you know, all this emotional turmoil, all this tragic turn of events. I was grieving, I was angry, I was just all over the place. That's when I found out that Kevin had actually taken out a significant life insurance policy, and well, he named me as the beneficiary. Again, I don't know what to think, because I feel very sad and very guilty about him losing his life because I did not get the opportunity to save him from something that I could have saved him from, and also The fact that I had to find out about all this in this way, technically, he was at fault for everything that he did as well, but I don't think that he deserved to be killed for it. The entire beneficiary thing is making me very confused, because even though I should be sad, it's also making me kind of happy, to be honest, because I found this financial stability that I've been trying to find after he moved, and we got divorced, because it's just been so hard for me to manage. When I found out that I was the beneficiary of the insurance claim, and that I'm actually about to receive a substantial amount of money, I was thrilled for a second before I remembered that I actually don't know what I'm supposed to feel. I tried talking to a couple of people, not that I have a lot of people to even, talk to. I don't know, it was just my mom that I was talking to, really. I'm really confused right now, so I just want to ask you guys this, and yes, this is my final update because I'm over it. Am I the a-hole that ruined my sister's marriage and caused my ex-husband's death? Hey, my name's Amber, and I'm a fashion designer. I also own my own boutique, and I've been reading a lot of cheating stories on the interwebs. I've been getting them a lot since my research history consists of research about how I should proceed if my husband cheated on me. I'm going through a divorce because my husband, Zachary, cheated on me with my cousin Alina. See, I married Zach after he proposed to me on our first relationship anniversary. When I introduced my fiancé to my family, it was a surprise to me that Alina, my uncle's daughter, already knew him. Zach explained that he had a one-night stand with her a long time ago, and now they have nothing to do with each other. Zach and I got married, and Alina attended our wedding too, and after the wedding, Zach's loving and caring attitude changed, and my dreamy marriage turned into a nightmare. I tried hard to save our relationship and hoped that Zach would change. I was desperate to have things the way that they were before, rather than calling out his toxic behavior, and I started to believe everything he was saying, even when there were signs that he was unfaithful to me. On our first wedding anniversary, I came home to find Zach and Alina making out in our bedroom. Something came over me and I started my Instagram live just to expose the duo. I kicked Zach out and now I'm divorcing him. Let me give you guys a backstory though. Zach and I have known each other since school because we've been living in the same town. Everyone knows each other here, and Zach and I got talking when he came in at closing time just to pick up his sister's prom dress. We were both walking into the same direction home, and we got to talking. Zach had a long day, and he asked me whether I would join him for a beer. Well, I wasn't doing anything that evening, and I was single, so I agreed. I found him cute, and I spent most of the evening laughing at his stupid jokes. The smile faded off my face when I saw my ex-boyfriend walk in with his new girlfriend. It had just been a month since we broke up, and it was a 4-year relationship, because he, quote, wanted to be alone for some time. I told Zach about it, and when my ex saw me across the bar, Zach took my hand and kissed me. He did that because he thought I would feel better, making my ex jealous, and it definitely felt damn good. And that's how my relationship with Zach started. I might add that he made the right move at the right time, because I would have never let that slide. Zach has quite a lot of wanderlust. He travels a lot. I have my own business, so I could close whenever I wanted to, but I was afraid to do so. Zach is a real estate broker. He travels a lot during the holidays and wants me to travel with him. At first I was reluctant because it would mean that I would have to be closed for a few days. When he offered to take me trekking, I refused because I did not want to leave work pending and there would be no one to speak to my clients. I usually get the most clients during the holidays, and Zach gave me the idea of hiring someone underneath me so that they could be there when I wasn't. So I hired Yuki, 22, female, and aspiring fashion designer. Yuki could not get a professional education but had been taught to stitch by her family. In fact, even I had to learn from her because she's been stitching ever since she was 8 years of age. And I was sure about her. I entrusted Yuki with the shop and went on trips with Zach. Zach and I had an amazing relationship, and we did have our arguments, but nothing too big. We usually went on a weekend road trip, but decided to spend our anniversary on a tropical vacation. We arrived a day before our anniversary and checked in the afternoon, and I looked at the itinerary and told Zach that we should do something memorable tomorrow for our first anniversary. He had planned the day so that we would be together in our room the whole day and have dinner in the evening. He promised me that my day would be memorable. It turns out that he proposed to me the next day, on our relationship anniversary, and I was extremely confused because it was so unexpected. And I thought he was joking. When I was sure that he wasn't kidding without skipping a beat, I said yes. It seemed right at the moment, and I was living in some fairy tale fantasy. After starting my relationship with Zach, I started doing things in my life that I've never done. Zach's the kind of guy who lives in the present and wants to live life to the fullest. His principles influenced me too, and I was having fun living by his ways. I was sick and tired of living by complying with my parents' orthodox ways. My relationship with Zach felt like I was being freed from a cage which I had been in all my life. I wanted to live like that for the rest of my life, and that's why at the time I did not regret hastily saying yes to Zach. A lot of you might judge me and think that I'm defending myself, but I'm not at all saying I was right. I'm just trying to explain what I was feeling at the time. When we came back, we went to Zach's parents' house where he lived and told his parents about our engagement. His parents were delighted, and his mom even said, "I knew there would be someone who would fix him." I was confused by that statement but paid no heed to it and brushed it off. We had discussed that we would stay at my apartment since I already lived independently. We nervously went to my parents' house next to reveal that we had gotten engaged. I had asked them to call the whole family and told them I wanted to make an announcement. When we got there, my whole family was waiting for us, eager to know what the big announcement was about. Before I could say anything, my cousin Alina rushed to Zach and threw her arms around him to hug him. Zach seemed rather shocked by her presence, and I was shocked and confused too. I told everyone that Zach and I were getting married. After my announcement, Alina backed off, but I was still confused and curious as to why she would hug my fiancé upon seeing him. She didn't live in the same town as me, and it seemed unlikely that she knew him already, but she clearly had some sort of connection to him. Even if they were acquainted, a hug seemed a very intimate sort of greeting, you know? I know her, so I know she wasn't the kind of person who goes around and just gives out free hugs. I was constantly thinking of the endless possibilities for the rest of the evening, while we all went out to a restaurant for dinner. I could not help but notice there was this strange eye contact between Zach and Alina. On one occasion, Alina found Zach alone, and they were discussing something. I made my way to join them in their conversation, but as soon as I joined, they were silent. I invited Zach over to my apartment after dinner so I could have a word with him. Even Zach knew what was going to happen, and the ride home was extremely awkward and silent. But I did not want to begin the talk in the car. When we got home, I asked Zach about Alina, and he knew the question was coming because his answer to the question seemed prepared. Zach admitted that he met Alina before and was her guide for an all-girls trek group. He told me he had a one-night stand with her, and they never contacted each other afterward. It was all too much for me to process, and it was a weird coincidence. I let it go, because it was not Zach's fault, nor was it Alina's, but it did nonetheless make things very awkward. I had to invite Alina because she's part of the family, and we were close as kids because we spent our holidays at our grandfather's beach house before our grandparents died. But after high school, we drifted apart. We could see each other often but not speak to each other, and I sent them the invitation, but deep down I was praying that they would skip the wedding. I would have normally made her my bridesmaid, but because of our weird situation, I preferred not to. My aunt, Alina's mom, expressed that she was upset that I excluded Alina from my bridesmaids gang. I could not tell her the truth, but I tried my best to avoid her. Alina still came to my wedding, and I wished that she had not, because surprisingly she was staring at Zach for the entire duration of the wedding. I could see the envy on her face, and it really bothered me. My parents had given us a honeymoon package as a wedding gift, and we had a 10-day honeymoon, which I thoroughly enjoyed. When we returned home, Zach expressed his disappointment with the arrangements for our honeymoon. I didn't find anything wrong with it, but I understood that since Zach was an avid traveler, the trip might not have met his expectation. So, I tried to defend my parents, but he just continued to deprecate them, which led to a huge fight between us. I get defensive over my parents and could not stand him bad-mouthing them. I could not go on arguing over this, and I felt that it wasn't taking us anywhere. So, I decided that we would not talk about it altogether and sort of surrendered to his perspective. The marriage brought a lot of arguments with it, making it evident that our honeymoon phase was over. I thought that having arguments was normal, and I realize now that that was not normal, nor was the frequency of them, and the fact that he would gaslight me and convince me that I was the issue. All these arguments ended with me being made to apologize for the sake of ending the topic. I'd slowly started questioning my decision to marry Zachary. I had begun to try to delay or avoid conflict by spending more time actually away from him. Well, the more that he would appreciate my existence in life, I tried to be the best wife for him and bowed down to everything he said in the hopes that he would just devalue me. Instead of appreciating me, he starts taking me for even more granted, and felt entitled to the many things that I did for him that no other woman would do. When I realized that he was taking me for granted, it had become too late to set boundaries. If I withdrew, he would immediately notice changes in my behavior and accuse me of losing love for him. Update number 1. Hello again. I'll start where I left off last time because I was simply tired of narrating the whole stuff and remember how I made a mistake by trusting my Zach and he turned my dream of happily ever after into a complete nightmare. So, before we got married, I was a huge part of his life. And he would go out with me on trips and take me to parties. All that stopped and he told me that he would rather go alone and that he needs his space too. He would come home late most evenings and give me silly excuses. He'd started to sideline his occupation and spend more time traveling or at parties. Of course, I would encourage anybody to do that since they love doing stuff like that, but the world doesn't work like that. I was starting to despise his frivolous behavior, which attracted me in the first place, and things were getting difficult for me because I was literally babysitting a man-child who refused to take responsibility for anything. So, I confronted him about his ways, and his answer was that it was my responsibility to pay for the things because it's my house, and that he would be happy to leave if it was such a burden. The nerve he had to say that to me. He then had the audacity to tell me that I should be grateful that he was helping with the expenses and easing the burden on me anyways. All my doubts about whether my marriage was a mistake were clear that day. I knew it was 100% a mistake. I wanted to try to rectify my mistake, but instead of leaving, I tried to figure out ways to make him stay and never leave. I aspired to fix him and make him a better person for me. I've trapped myself in a bubble filled with delusion, and I've began to watch videos on manifestation and how to make yourself irresistible. I could not keep it inside me, so I shared some insight into myself with Yuki, who tried to tell me in a soft way that whatever I was doing was a complete and utter bullcrap. I wish somebody had slapped me out of my delusion at the time. One day, I come home from a fashion expo that I've gone to with my friends and Yuki. That day, my friends had given me a piece of their mind about Zachary. We'd gone to get drinks after the expo, and I was kinda tipsy when I got home. Zach went to the bathroom, and I was really hungry, so I went to go order food. My phone switched off, and I grabbed Zach's phone to order food instead. A notification popped up on his phone containing a rather unusual text message. It was a picture taken by Alina. She was in her lingerie and biting her lip in the picture. It was followed by more text, and I read up, and the conversation was full of text messages, but there was no reply from Zachary. I verified the number, and it was not the same number I had for Alina. I was so mad, I immediately confronted Zachary about all the text and forced him to come out of the bathroom. At first, Zach was furious upon discovering that I've opened up his phone. I wasn't having any of his crap that day. I lashed out at him, and was getting ready to go straight to Alina and confront her too. Zach then made efforts to calm me down, and he told me that Alina's been trying to pursue him, and that Zach's trying to ignore her. Well, I asked him why he didn't tell me, and he told me that he didn't want to upset me or cause any family drama. His story is quite convincing, and I believed whatever he told me, and I did not see that he didn't reply to any of the texts, so I thought he was clean. A few days later, it was seemingly a normal day, but something major happened. I left a client's measurements at home, and I asked Yuki to go get them because it was oh so urgent. It was the holiday season, so, I was extremely busy with work. I gave Yuki the apartment keys so she could go in and get the measurements, and I left near my computer in my bedroom. Yuki came back from the apartment alarmed and without the piece of paper in hand, and I asked her to bring it. I said, "Well, what's wrong, Yuki?" She made a shocked revelation. She told me that my husband is with another woman undressed in the bedroom. I dropped everything and went straight home. When I went home, Zach was there, but there was no one else. I asked him who was in my apartment. I was in tears, and he lied to me and told me that Yuki made a move because he confronted her about stealing from my boutique. He showed me footage on my laptop, and Yuki was handling money from my cash drawer to some stranger outside my shop. Yuki, who I'd brought along with me, was in tears. She tried to stutter, but I didn't listen to a word she said. Zach then gaslighted me and was angered over how I trusted Yuki and not him. Zach was extremely upset, and I tried to apologize multiple times. I was furious. I was heartbroken by Yuki's betrayal. I considered her to be a good friend of mine, and I really wanted the best for her. Things were cold between Zach and me, but our anniversary was indeed coming up. Zach wanted a specific camera for his trekking adventures, which I was planning to buy for him. I thought Zach would wish me at midnight, but it seemed he completely forgot, and I planned to surprise him and take him out for the evening. I went to his office to surprise him, but he wasn't there. I didn't see his friends post anything about a boys' night on social media, so I knew he would be home. I went home, and it was late afternoon, so I was not usually home at the time, and neither was he. Zach has this habit of leaving the lights on, even if it's bright. I saw the lights from underneath the door, and I knew that he was home, and I tried to not make any noise at all. Opened the lock very quietly and crept into our bedroom to surprise him. The TV was on and blasted at full volume, so there's no way that he could hear me. I put the cake and the gift I bought for him on the table, and I tiptoed to the bedroom, careful not to give him away when I was at home to surprise him. What I found in my bedroom was shocking. My husband was in bed with my cousin, and they were kissing. They were so into each other they couldn't even hear me gasp or see me standing right there at the door. I didn't want him to make any silly excuse of it. At that point, I was just filled with desires to take revenge. So, I opened up my camera and started a live session on Instagram. Yep, you read it right. All his friends, families, our families, everyone followed us along with most of the people in the town. I usually do live sessions, so a lot of people joined. I even have 50,000 followers, so I'm talking business. They were making out for a whole 5 minutes before I caught Alina's eyes. I even recorded their reaction on the live video and told them to smile for the camera. Zach was making so many excuses and blaming Alina for the whole thing. Alina and Zach started throwing blame at each other. I told Zach that I was giving him an hour to get dressed, pack, and leave the house because I never wanted to see his face again. I also took the cake and threw it at his face and wished him a happy damn anniversary. Update number 2. Hey guys, it's going to be a short update about what transpired after I caught my husband cheating with my cousin, because I'm going to give you a longer update soon. So I left, took the camera with me, returned it, and bought my girls a drink that day. Towards the end of the night, I was extremely drunk and in tears, and my girls dropped me home. I prayed that Zach wouldn't be there because I didn't want to see him. Zach and Alina both left. Zach went back to his parents' house, and the next day I saw my phone and it was filled with missed calls, voice messages about Instagram Live the previous day. I'd also posted it live so everyone who had not seen it can watch it later. I was filled with immense regret about my reaction and felt I should not have shown my personal life to everyone. But hey, they're the ones who were going to suffer because I got a lot of support from people and gained followers and popularity overnight. I saw the insights in the post, and there were so many shares, comments, likes, I couldn't even imagine. I did not pick up anyone's calls, and the news had reached my parents. So I went to see them and told them that I was not going to talk to anyone in the family. My uncle gave Alina a piece of his mind, and no one's speaking terms with her anymore. I filed for divorce and sent him the notice at his parents' house. Sources tell me his parents are unhappy with him, obviously, and also with the humiliation they're facing in society. I also got angry voice messages from them when I didn't pick up the phone, and they're all out of opinions that I could have handled the situation more maturely. They should tell their son to be more mature rather than teach me, and man, do I owe Yuki an apology. So I went to her house and she explained that the CCTV footage was just her paying the pizza delivery guy. I felt so guilty for my actions. I hugged her. I apologized. I told her that she could join me again, and I knew I didn't deserve it, but I promised her that I would try my best to make it up to her, and I never imagined a year ago that I would be traumatized by the 2-year-old relationship. Would be cheated on by my husband with my cousin, and would be divorcing the man I thought was the love of my life. All this sounds so gross, so disgusting. I can't believe it was my cousin. Now I have to just wait and see what happens. Update number 3. Hey, so I have to update you all about what happened. I want to tell you all that I am now divorced and Zachary's out of my picture. I want to share the details. I want to start off by saying that yes, I agree I was stupid. It doesn't mean that I should be filled with hate because I was blinded by my love for my husband. You have to understand that trust is an integral part of a relationship, and I wasn't wrong for trusting him. Everybody wants to try to save their marriage, and I don't deserve to hear that I deserved it or that I brought it upon myself. What I'm going through is already bad enough. I don't think people realize that I know and I accept it was a mistake, and people don't need to go crazy in the comments. This post is for the few people who are like me. And even if their partners are not cheating on them, I hope I inspire them to take the step towards freeing themselves from the shackles of a toxic relationship. On the other hand, there were lovey comments that were very supportive and just empathizing with my story, and a lot of people have been where I'm at, so I'm not the only one. It's easier to comment or have an opinion when you're seeing things from a different perspective, but being in that turmoil, it's a lot more difficult. Things don't make sense. You don't know what you're doing. And when you're attached to someone you love, you don't want to let them go. And you're willing to fight for them. Many times you believe the lies they tell because you subconsciously just want those lies to be the truth. Now, moving on to what you readers have been eagerly waiting for. Of course, I was going to mess him over. I was not going to be that one person who let things go, because honestly, a lesson taught to one is a lesson for all. I wasn't going to let him go. I wasn't really in the position to teach Alina a lesson, and I realized that I should not waste my time on her too much. Her parents already disowned her, and now she has to pay for everything. They even spent the money they saved for her dream wedding on a long vacation, and now the poor girl lives in a cramped apartment with a couple of roommates. I was going to just get a divorce from Zach, and it was granted on the grounds of adultery. I even managed to prove to the judge that I was responsible for 80% of the expenses in our marriage and that he wasn't contributing much despite me asking him to do so. Well, the court made him pay a hefty amount in alimony because of all the expenses, and I had to bear in my marriage, and because he cheated on me, which was damaging to my mental health, Zach was kicked out of his house by his parents and he had zero savings. He had a hard time managing his own expenses and he had to pay me too. One of his friends told me that the reason he married in the first place was because he needed someone to take care of his expenses, because his parents were pressurizing him to move out. So basically, he just wanted the babysitter for himself. Me. Wow. I deleted the video I put online, but I have to give the video huge credit, because it was shared so much that it made my page blow up, and I got a lot of clients after that. A lot of people noticed my talent through my page, and I got new clients from other cities even. I had to start a home delivery and pickup service too. Everything's going great for me after my divorce, but things have gone downhill for Alina and Zach. Serves them right. Money's not everything. I learned this when I crossed paths with Fred. I'm a nurse, and I've been doing my best to achieve the zenith of my career. The story of my life took a new narrative one day while I was at the hospital observing my night shift. The ambulance rushed into the premises, and a man in his late 70s was brought in on the stretcher. His wife and grandson accompanied him because he had suffered a heart attack. It was Fred's granddad, and he was rushed to the ICU, while Fred and his grandmother remained in the waiting area. His grandmother believed him for the condition of his granddad, and she threatened to disown him if anything happened to her husband, his grandfather. I wondered what Fred would have done to his granddad, and it was later on, when his grandfather was discharged, that I got a proper understanding of what was going on. I took on the job to take care of Fred's granddad at home. I needed the extra cash, and his grandfather was on his way to recovery, and though Fred was doing everything to make him happy, his grandfather did not want to talk to him. I learned from other staff at home that Fred's parents had passed away, and his grandparents had taken him in. Well, Fred lived a wild life, and it's been a concern to his grandparents, who could not discard him as he was only surviving seed that they had. Fred and his grandfather had gotten into an argument the night that he had gotten a heart attack, and it was because of Fred's wild lifestyle. Fred, from what I've heard, lived a carefree life and spent his grandfather's money on women and parties, and this had always been an issue of concern for the family. The things which I heard about Fred did not correspond with the things that I saw. He was always at home trying to please his grandfather, except when he was at his grandfather's firm, managing the activities that went on there. I'd say he did this for 3 months, and his grandparents began to be pleased with the new Fred, as they called it, especially by the fact that no loose women were coming around the house to look for him. Fred started to make advances at me during this time, and I didn't want to get mixed up with him because of things I heard. And I only wanted a professional relationship with his family for as long as I took care of his granddad. My business with him concluded within a few months' time, and I guess you could say Fred won my heart. He proposed to me, and though I was skeptical about accepting his proposal at first, he assured me that he was a changed man, and even suggested that I give him the opportunity to prove it. I did, and he officially took me to introduce me to his grandparents as his fiancé. His grandparents were super elated. They noted right in my presence that it was best decision Fred has ever made in the recent years besides quitting his immoral lifestyle. His grandfather noted that the fact that he was willing to spend the rest of his life with a lady like me, it meant that he was truly changed. They promised to support us in whatever way we needed them to, and the wedding preparation was underway. Fred approached me to make a demand. He wanted us to sign a prenuptial agreement just to protect his property and whatever he was going to get from his grandfather. Well, I was startled by what he said. Why would he need to protect his property and inheritance from me? Well, he pleaded with me to see things from his point of view, as he noted that though his grandparents loved me for my homeliness and all, they wanted to be sure that I was not getting married to him because of money. It did not sound like his grandparents, but I did not give much thought to it. So I agreed to sign the documents, and besides, if I did refuse, it would have projected me as someone who was indeed money-hungry. I informed Fred before our wedding that I was career-driven and not willing to put my career aspirations aside just to become a full housewife, and he was okay with it. He noted that he was not going to demand it from me, as he equally loved the fact that I was actually working and not just depending on him for money. We got married 3 years ago and had a set of twins shortly after. We were all living in peace until recently when Philomena, a sales agent, showed up at the doorstep with a baked cake and a seductive smile. Philomena had moved into our neighborhood, and in a bid to get acquainted with our neighbors, she visited us. We welcomed her into our home, and we talked for a bit. I did not pick much up from what she had said, besides the sales agent part. We appreciated the gesture of goodwill, I'm talking the cake, but there was just something off about her, and I was not comfortable with it. I sensed that she was onto my man. There was no concrete evidence per se, but this is just a woman's intuition, and women are usually right about these kind of things, you know. Each time we would ask her a question, she would smile at my husband, feel at home, and give the answer. For someone who was visiting for the first time, she was too damn comfy. Philomena left our home, and my husband commented that she was such a nice lady. I immediately expressed my dislike for her, and he was shocked because I'm very accommodating of a person who does not easily turn people away. He asked what in the world she could have done to me to get me to dislike her so much, and I told him that she had her eyes on him. Fred starts to laugh at me like I had said something absolutely ridiculous and stupid. After about a minute, he asked how I knew, and I simply told him that it was my gut instinct. Fred resumed his laughter, and after he was done, he tells me that I was simply paranoid about an innocent lady who just wanted to be friendly. I still stood my ground, not comfortable around her, but Fred assured me that I had absolutely nothing to worry about. He promised to cut her off once he observed a little portion of my suspicion to be true. I took Fred and his word and tried not to get myself all worked up because of this lady. Things went on smoothly in my home recently. Now, I got promoted to the position of head nurse in the hospital where I worked a month ago. It was like a milestone for me in my career when you consider my age. Other qualified nurses for the position are much older than me. I announced my promotion to my husband over breakfast. He was happy for me, and I told him that, though this position came with its benefits and demands, they're higher. And this was because I knew that there would be days when I might not seem as available as I used to be. Fred seemed understanding of it, and he said, "Oh, that's okay." I resumed duty as the head nurse, and it was harder than I had imagined it to be. It took all of my time because I was trying to impress the management that had placed me there. I gave the job my all, but I was summoned by the management yesterday, and I was told that I was not ready to handle the position yet. I tried to ask for more time, but they are the ones who call the shots. Someone else was brought in as an interim, and I was to observe very closely how the person performed, and perhaps I could be reinstated in the future. I won't lie, losing this position was too much for me to handle because I'd worked so hard to achieve it, and worse still, I knew that the promise to have me reinstated in the future was just a way to soothe me and nothing more. I took a half-day's leave that afternoon, and I got home where I felt I could succor and just forget about the disappointing day that I had at the hospital. But I stumbled upon my husband and our neighbor in the parlor chit-chatting. There was a bottle of wine, which was almost empty, and it seemed as though they were having a nice little chit-chat. Seeing Fred and Philomena just added to my frustration for the day, especially after the fact that she was all over him. Fred was surprised that I was back at the house at this hour, and he asked if anything was wrong. I told him that I'd been replaced as the head nurse, and he said, "Oh, that's sad, but I'll be fine." And he just resumed his discussion with our neighbor. If what Fred had said and how he had acted had come from someone else, then it would have been fine, but he's my damn husband, and I expected more. I went to the bedroom, but I heard their laughter, and I was just pained all the more. I did my best to ignore it, but I failed. So I was back at the parlor within 5 minutes, demanding that Philomena leaves, as there was something really important and private that my husband and I need to deal with. Well, Fred looked very surprised at that and asked if we could deal with the issue, later. But I noted, no, it's a matter of serious issue and urgency, and Philomena immediately excused herself and left to her house. Fred asked what the hell the issue is, and I said that he was the one having the problem. He looked at me in utter shock, and I gave him explanations before he could even ask about it, and I pointed out that he had acted insensitively upon learning that I had been replaced as the head nurse. I noted that he glossed it over like it was not something of a serious thing, and was quick to resume his good time with the neighbor, whom I had clearly said made me uncomfortable, and Fred responded by saying that Philomena was not the reason I had lost my job and that I did not feel comfortable with her. Which did not mean that she was not going to be welcomed in the house. I was just already frustrated, and my patience was already stretched to the limit. So my emotions, not my head, my emotions, were responsible for the things that came out of my mouth, and I told Fred that he was talking the way he did because Philomena was all over him, and he enjoyed it. I mean, this lady was supposed to be a sales agent, eh? As she claimed. So what was she doing in the house, our home, during work hours when she's supposed to be out there making a living, in the field trying to close deals? I told Fred that this lady was trying to sell something to him, duh, and it was not a product of commodity. My voice was over the roof, as they would say, but I was so mad to notice, and it was then there was a knock on the door that I got a grip of myself. It seemed that our neighbor has been drawn to the disturbance coming from our home, so I opened up the door, and standing right there was the root of our argument itself, Philomena. She said that she had come to check if everything was all right, and I was not about to just bring her into this, even though she was technically the center of it already. I told her we're good. But my husband immediately storms out of the house in anger, and it was indicative of the fact that we were having issues. Philomena asked again if everything was okay, and I told her that I wanted to be alone, before I slammed the door in her face. I mean, can you blame me? My husband has not come home since yesterday, and though I'm a bit concerned, I'm not going to reach out to him because it would make me look like the villain when all I'm trying to do is not let some random girl break up my marriage. Let him come home whenever his madness is over. I'll be right here. What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. Oh man, let me know in the comments if you think Philomena is up to something. I do have 2 comments from the original post we'll check out right now. But first, guys, if you're not subscribed to the channel, it does support us so much. All you have to do is click that subscribe button, and immediately after that, click those bell notifications. Here's comment 1. It says, OP stood up for herself and her relationship, which is great. Losing a job is tough, but instead of letting it get her down, she talked to her husband about it, and she made it crystal clear that she wasn't comfortable with her neighbor. And when things get to be too much, she took action to protect the marriage. I mean, it's pretty simple. It's pretty strong. Comment 2 says, oh man. OP's reaction seemed a bit over the top and straight up paranoid. Losing a job sucks, but getting all suspicions of her husband and neighbor without real proof, that's a bit much. Confronting her husband in front of the neighbor and slamming the door in her face, well, that's not the best way to handle things. It could just make things worse in their relationship. But I guess we'll find out. Update number 1. My husband has returned, but his sanity has not, and it's intensified. Fred came home 3 days ago, and the kids had already gone to bed, so they couldn't even see their father. It was a good thing, I'd say, because Fred, who came home, was not the one that I married. The man who walked through that door that evening was the person who had caused his father to have a heart attack. Remember that? With his little living that he was doing, and I could perceive the strong stench of alcohol on him the moment I opened up the door. I greeted him, but he just walked past me without even responding, and I guess instead of a greeting, he was expecting an apology. Well, I was going to respect him as my hubby, but I was not willing to apologize for stating the oblivious. Maybe it was my ego or not, I don't know. I followed him to the room to ask if he wanted me to get him something for dinner. But Fred ignored me. He took off his shoes and laid on the bed like a pack of playing cards, and I felt stupid to have even offered him dinner. And I made up my mind to give him the space that he was obviously clamoring for. Fred left the house early the next morning before the kids even woke up, and he didn't tell me where he was off to. I did not care, as I had already made up my mind to give him some space. Well, I guess I did, because Fred returned home that evening, and I was with the kids in the sitting room. The moment they saw him, they ran towards him, but he ignored them and walked straight to the bedroom. I was obviously pained by Fred's display. I mean, how could he be keeping the kids at a distance because we're having some issues? I get it that it's normal for couples to have their squabbles, but it's wrong for either of them to take it out on the children. The kids soon drifted to sleep in the sitting room right there, and I carried them to their bedroom one by one, before going to confront old Fred. He was taking the whole thing too far, and that was just foolish of him. I mean, I walked to the room, and Fred did not acknowledge my presence, and he was just fixated on his phone. I told him, "We need to talk, buddy." He replied that he had nothing to say to me. Well, I don't care. I had quite a few things I need to say to him. So I began to talk. I wanted to verbally tear him to shreds for dragging our kids into a misunderstanding that we were having, but I decided to take the route of peace, tranquility. I told Fred that we needed to put an end to the squabble, which we had, and at least for the sake of the children, but Fred replied that the only issue at hand was me trying to dictate his lifestyle for him, and he went ahead to say that I wanted to be the man in the marriage, and he was not going to have that. I knew where he was going with this, so I apologized to Fred if I had disrespected him, but I tried to point out how hurt I was, and I lost the position of the head nurse, coming home wanting to find some sort of peace in my husband, only to discover that he was more interested in the company of a woman who was drooling over him. Fred immediately got offended and began to say that I was acting as though he had cheated on me with a Philomena, when all he did was be friendly with her and nothing more. He put on his pants and his shirt, and even though it was late in the night, he walked out the door. He didn't come back home that night, and he refused to even answer the phone. It's been a day or two since I've heard or saw him, and I'm considering taking the whole issue right to his grandparents. If anybody can call my husband to order, it's definitely going to be them. I know you might not be in support of me taking the matters of my home to my in-laws, but what do you do when you're in my shoes? Update number 2. Things have grown worse between my husband and me, and I fear that I may have been the cause. I visited my in-laws just as I noted in my last update. I did not hide my frustration at the whole thing, and I broke down in tears several times as I narrated to my in-laws that my marriage was on the path to collapse because of a lady who had recently moved into our neighborhood. His grandmother was sympathetic, and the first thing that came out of her mouth was, "He has started again." His grandfather was born sympathetic and mad, and he repeatedly asked me if I was certain of the things that I said, and after I had replied in the affirmative, he said his grandson had become more foolish than he used to be as a single man. Fred's granddad called him right there, but he didn't tell him what I was with him. He tells Fred that it's been a while since he saw his great-grandkids, and so he wanted to have a little get-together that Sunday. He asked that Fred bring his family, me and the children, to his home on Sunday. The phone was on loudspeaker, and I heard Fred lie to his grandfather, saying that he and I planned a weekend getaway to celebrate the anniversary of when we first met. I immediately signaled to his grandpa that it was a lie, and he insisted that Fred and I postpone the getaway. Which, by the way, Fred claimed that we had eagerly been looking forward to. His father tells him that he could even still make the trip once we were done at their place, since the get-together would only be for a few hours. If Fred had not worked for his grandfather, then I'm sure he would have used work as a perfect excuse. But he could not, so he promised his grandfather that his family would be there on Sunday. And I went back to the house, and Fred returned home later that night. Well, I greeted him, and his only response to my greeting was, my grandfather demands that you and the kids come over on Sunday. It's going to be for a family get-together. I played dumb as if I did not know what was happening or what would happen, and Sunday strolled on, and rather than drive us down to his grandfather's place as a family, he asked that I take the kids there and he would join us shortly. Well, I didn't bother myself as I knew the kind of backlash that waited his grandparents' house. He finally shows up at his grandparents' home and blamed the high level of a traffic jam for his late coming. We were all at the parlor except for the kids, who were being watched over by the staff in the room, and Fred's granddad asked what the issue was between him and me and some sales agent's neighbor. The moment the question was thrown at him, he looked at me in displeasure. His grandfather immediately called his attention for an answer, and Fred said that there's no issue, except for the fact that I wanted him to be hostile for no just cause to a neighbor that had recently moved into our area. Fred's granddad asked him to tell him about this neighbor whom I did not like, and Fred began to dish out a lot of information that I was embarrassed my husband knew so much about. I mean, this lady, within this short amount of time, she had moved into the area, and he then wrapped it up by saying that my insecurities had this toxicity towards him for not antagonizing the lady I felt was a threat. Even though he was not giving me any reason to suspect, that he was cheating on me with her. His grandmother cut in and she just said a few things that were going on in my mind. She said that Fred was supposed to be ashamed for knowing so much about this said lady, and she pointed out the fact that he would only have known so much in a short while because he must have spent a lot of time with her. Fred still tried to defend the lady, but it was then that his grandfather now shut him up. He blasted him for letting a total stranger, who had moved into our area barely a few months ago, by the reason why our relationship was strained. He told Fred that even if the sales agent lady was innocent and all, wisdom demanded that he kept her at arm's length since his marriage and family were threatened by it. He demanded that Fred do what was necessary to ensure that our home remained at peace. Fred promised his grandparents that he would do just as they said, but his promises were so empty. He was the one who drove us back home, and he did not say a word to me throughout the journey. He was so mad that I reported him to his grandparents, and we got home that day, and the only ones he spoke to were just the kids. I prepared dinner, but he refused to eat. He didn't talk to me for the next 2 days. And I could not call his grandparents to tell them about it because of part of the reason why I resentment towards me was the heightened reason that I got them involved. I decided that I was going to take another direction in restoring our strained relationship, so I discussed it with a friend. She promised to have the kids spend the weekend at her place while I give my husband a special kind of treatment. Wink, wink. Fred went on a Saturday morning out, and I knew that his return would be the evening. So I took advantage of the time to prepare and set up a romantic dinner. I made sure the atmosphere was so ambient, and I prepared to give him a steamy dinner. When I suspected that he would be coming back, I bathed. I applied my makeup, and I put on some lingerie, and I waited for my hubby. Fred came strolling back later than he usually did, and though I was a bit tired, I was willing to do anything to save the marriage. I welcomed him with a smile at the door, and he came into the house, and though he noticed everything was in place, he did not seem interested. He just sat on the couch, right there, with his eyes closed even. And, I prepared a warm bath for him, and I came from behind the couch where he sat to tell him all about it. I placed both hands on his shoulders and started to gently massage him, while telling him, with a voice that suggested I had other things equally planned for the night, about the bath that I prepared. Fred immediately sat up like the electricity has been fired to his body, and he flung my hands away from his shoulder. He looked at me in the eyes and said I disgusted him before walking out of the door and banging it shut. I stood there in my lingerie as hot tears flowed down my cheeks. The matter has certainly got out of hand. It's been a few days since I last heard from him, but I've refrained from calling his parents. To be honest, I don't even know what they would do to save the marriage at this point. I mean, what would you do? Update number 3. This is the final update of the story. I'm currently divorced. That's right. So don't tell me that you did not see that coming, because after the embarrassment that Fred had given me the night when I tried to spice things up between us, I went the next day to pick my kids up at my friend's place, where they stayed. And we had a lengthy discussion. My friend told me that I should have confronted the source of the problem in the first place. She noted that any man would be offended with his wife calling him out of his family or in public, and what I could have done was to confront Philomena behind my husband and warn her to keep her distance from my man and my family. My friend noted that my husband might have been entangled in something with a sales agent, and she advised that I visit her. I did what my friend said, and the result, oh boy, was it shocking. So I went to Philomena's house for the first time, and she opened up the door after I knocked for a while. I could see that she was putting on just a large male shirt that covered her pants, and she looked somewhat surprised to see me. She feigned a smile and said that she never expected to see me at her doorstep, but she was glad that I came. Well, if she was, then I could not understand why she did not invite me inside. Well, I told her that I wanted to discuss something really important with her, but she just asked me that I come back another time, and I was trying to be insistent when I heard the voice of a man from inside calling her babe, and asked why she was taking so long, and I immediately recognized that voice. It was my husband, Fred. So I shoved Philomena aside and barged in, and I found Fred putting on just a pair of boxers. I was mad, but he did not show any remorse. He verbally tore me to shreds as I called him shameless for cheating on me. Fred said that he had left the house because he could no longer stand me and my toxicity, and he did not feel sorry for whatever he did and whatever I just discovered. So Fred went ahead and tells me that he never loved me. The only reason he has gotten married to me and not Philomena was because he saw how pleased his grandparents were with me whenever they talked about the ideal of kind of life we would have. I was trying so hard to process his statement, and my heart raced as my head equally banged. The implication of what he just said was that, well, he had known Philomena before he even met me. I was still trying to digest the bitter pill as I turned to Philomena, but her facade immediately changed. She tells me that she was tired of watching me act like I owned her man, when he was never mine to begin with. She admits that when Fred had married me years ago just to rise in the eyes of his grandparents, who were going to die and leave the inheritance to him. The act of Fred had infuriated Philomena, which is why she left the country and went on a long trip. Later, when she returned, she did not try to reach out to Fred for so long until they bumped into each other just a few months ago. After he assured her of his intention behind marrying me, she forgave him, and she consciously moved into our neighborhood just to be close to Fred. So, I didn't know what to do. I mean, what could I have done? Beat them up? I told Fred that I was done with this marriage, and he said that I could go ahead and divorce him, but he was not bothered because the prenuptial agreement, which is why we already signed it and ensured that whatever his is going to remain his. I didn't care. I just ran out of the house and I cried straight to my in-laws' place and I told them everything. And they had me and the kids move in with them while they sent me for their grandson. Fred showed up at his grandparents' place with them while they sent for their grandsons. Well, Philomena shows up, but they did not come to beg. He immediately admitted that everything that I had said was true and he was done putting up with my toxicity. He even told his grandparents to let him handle the affairs of his home, as he was old enough to do so, and his grandfather immediately fired Fred from the company, just like that, right there, on the spot. Fred tried to protest and tell his grandparents that they were picking the side of a lady over their son, but they told him that the lady was the mother of their grandbabies, and since he was old enough to handle his affair, then he was equally old enough to make his own money. You would think that was all right. Oh no, it was only the beginning. Fred's grandfather told him that he was taking him off his will and he was making me the sole heir of all that could have been his. It turned out that the prenuptial agreement that we signed was useless after all because, well, Fred didn't own anything. Fred was mad and he starts yelling at his grandparents, and I was shocked to see that side of Fred. I could have never imagined that he would shout out his grandparents like this. His grandparents threatened to call the law. But Fred was showing no signs of slowing down as he tried to reach me with a rage in his eyes that was evident enough to tell me that he could hurt me that instant. I picked up a vase for self-defense, of course, but then the grandparents' neighbor rushed to our place. I realized that Fred's grandma had called the cops, and the neighbor, since they were good friends. The neighbor was an ex-policeman who was still stronger than Fred, and he tackled Fred and held him to the ground until Fred gave up. Before he could say anything, his grandparents had him and Philomena throw out of the house with a warning to never show their faces again. Our divorce was finalized yesterday, and he'll be paying child support from now on. Philomena can keep him for all I care. He doesn't measure up to half of a man. I'm sure she'll leave him soon because he's literally struggling to find a proper job. And knowing the lavish taste of his woman, he won't be able to hold her down for very long. But I don't care about them now. All I want to say is thank you to everyone who's helped me out throughout the comments and supporting me. Oh boy. Here guys, 2 comments from the final update, and some of these comments are not happy. Comment number 1 says, "Wow, OP. You showed incredible strength and resilience in such a difficult situation. It takes a lot of courage to confront the source of problems head on, especially when it involves confronting your ex-husband and his mistress. Your decision to seek out Philomena and uncover the truth, it speaks volumes about your determination to take control of your life. And reaching out to your in-laws for support was a very smart move. It's heartwarming to see them stand by your side and prioritize your well-being and that of your children. Anyways, I wish you luck. Comment number 2 says, OP, while your fiery confrontation might make you have a juicy drama, I guess, some may argue it was a tad impulsive. Barging into Philomena's house like that, a detective on a mission, could have escalated things unnecessarily. Plus, airing your marital dirty laundry to your in-laws, come on, it might put them in a very awkward spot. While it's totally understandable to be hurt and angry, some might suggest a more strategic approach, girl, like seeking legal advice or counseling. Come on, you're an adult. To navigate the divorce and custody battle with a bit more finesse. But hey, everyone loves a good plot twist, am I right? Good luck, OP.